Good morning, good morning, good morning, Grand Rising. Welcome on to this day. Welcome as we are on a Thursday. Yes, on a Thursday. We are live. Today is Thursday, right? Yeah, on a Thursday. We are live. So now we are going live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Today's conversation is going to be: does the Bible condone the transatlantic slave trade? We give about 5 minutes for people to get on. So we give about 5 minutes for people to get on. We are going to be here for about 2, 3, 4 hours. I don't know yet, depending on how the conversation goes. And it's pretty sad that we still have to have this conversation. It's pretty sad that this is still a question, but this is defended very vehemently by Black people for some strange reason. I find it amazing that Black people defend this conversation more so than anybody else. Like, you would think that this in itself would be justification to walk away from the Bible. So when some people tell me they walked, as soon as they read that the Bible condones slavery, they walked away from the Bible. I completely understand walking away from the Bible as soon as you realize that the God of the Bible condones slavery. Before we get deep into this conversation today, I want to remind people we are having a webinar you can go into the YouTube page and you'll see where you can click on it. Exodus, the greatest lie was told. We're also having a meetup here in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. That link is also on the YouTube page at Coach Rance 33. And now that that's out the way, hopefully we're looking to have some conversations. It's hard for me to comprehend how any person of any sound mind can read the Bible and not recognize that the Bible endorses slavery. Hold on, let me turn this machine off real quick. That it endorses slavery and endorses the transatlantic slave trade at that. Now, a lot of people like to try to focus on when you talk about the transatlantic slave trade, they try to focus on the treatment. We're not concerned about the treatment. The treatment is not the question. When you ask what is at the heart of the transatlantic slave trade, it is the fact of chattel slavery, meaning that you own someone as property for life, and as property, you can pass them down in your will and inheritance. So, before we get into this, let's give a little history about how the transatlantic slave trade started. So, before the transatlantic slave trade actually got started, it originally was more of a transatlantic Mediterranean slave trade. It really didn't go across the entire Atlantic. Uh, Originally, you had the Portuguese and you had the Spanish, and they were fighting over the slaves that they were getting from the Canary Islands. Now, they were converting these people over into Christians. But Pope Nicholas wanted to fight against the Ottomans, and Spain and Portugal wasn't participating because they was having this issue about the Canary Islands. So Pope Nicholas, and I'm skipping Clement, but Pope Nicholas decided, hey, I'm gonna write this papal bull. And in this papal bull, I'm gonna show you that what y'all need to do is go into West Africa. Now, any of the Canary Island people who are Christians, you gotta free them. But go into West Africa, and it is your Christian mandate, based on what we're going to talk about today, is your Christian mandate to go there, convert them over to Christianity, but enslave them as property, and then take them on over. And first they was bringing them up into Europe, and then they started taking them over into the Americas once they found that good sugar cane. And so the transatlantic slave trade was based on the papal bull by Pope Nicholas V, which he bases it off the Bible. And that's going to be our discussion for today. Uh, Let's see if we get disagreement or agreement from Happy Africa. My man, Happy Africa, how you doing?
Yeah, bro, you good? I'm good, man.
Good.
How was your day, man?
It is
How's
pretty
your day
good.
going?
Pretty fantastic so far.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite, bro. I appreciate that. Yeah, we in Africa nowadays, yeah, and today here, like we are indigenous people in Africa. We still feel the hefty blow that was left by slavery. Um, you can look at what happened in Congo. You understand what happened with Leopold, yeah?
Yeah, with King Leopold and his massacring of like 30 million people.
Yeah, sure. But I have a problem with the mainstream information where they don't align this information to be that truthful or to place it in as part of our history. They don't do that. I feel like they're hiding this from us so that we won't analyze the actual intensity of the damage they did to us. I'm from Kenya, you have to understand that. And even here, it was very immense. And still today, you have to understand that most of the land they grabbed, yeah, they still own them to this day, bro. I tell you. And we have this man, you can search on your Google anytime, called Lord de la Mer. You can search that name right now. This guy, yeah, I think it is his third generation here. He even unalives people from within that area today, yeah, just because people are trespassing or so on and so forth. People are trying to fight back for the land. So I do understand the case you're trying to present here. And while you're doing so, I would love you also touch on the impact it has today, apart from what has happened somewhere else and so on. You can also touch on the impact it has to indigenous African people today.
So, okay, because you kind of threw multiple things out there within your commentary. So basically, I understand what you're saying, that the information about what happened during slavery and during colonization and how it still affects people all over the world today, especially people in Africa, people in the Americas, and so on and so forth. But you don't understand the conversation that we're having today of how the Bible condones slavery. If it wasn't for the Bible condoning of the slavery, if the Bible didn't condone slavery, then there would not have been a moral basis for the Mediterranean people to commit to this slavery. Slavery has been,
no doubt.
Huh?
Yeah, no doubt, for sure.
Now the thing about it is, okay, so this channel, with it being a deconstruction channel, it is, first of all, the people who are the ancestors. I mean, not the ancestors, the inheritors of this religion from their ancestors who was forced into this religion. We have to realize that we are only of this religion because we were enslaved and forced into it. And so we got to drop this religion first, because as long as people still believe in this religion, they're not going to start to make certain changes in their life. They're not going to make the economic change. They're not going to then make the political change. They're not going to then make actual life changes. They're going to maintain the same bullshit because they are looking for heaven later. They believe that they were that going through this process was a righteous judgment of this God, that Black people were colonized in Africa, that they were enslaved and sent all over the world, that they feel that God is justified through this God. So the purpose is to understand that you got to stop running away from the issue and cut this off at the root. Right now, as far as other people, as far as today, now, even if a person is indoctrinated into this religion, and I know this is going to sound a little bit counter to what I just said, you shouldn't put up with the bullshit. If somebody is running around unaliving people in Kenya today, then the people of Kenya need to come with the same energy. You understand what I'm saying? So let me give you an example. So my father, when the reason why the last time the KKK marched through the city of Marietta was in the 1970s is because my father and his friends got on top of the buildings and they started shooting at them. So the KKK never marched through the city that I lived in after that. I had to go like way outside of my city to see KKK for the first time. So if the people don't do shit, then the other people who run roughshod over you are going to continue. But one of the problems is that people who have been enslaved, they have this oppressed mindset. And this religion tells them to love your enemies and pray for the leadership that whatever you're born under. And you're sitting up here praying for these leaders. You're sitting up here turning the other cheek and loving your enemy. This is why when you see like the Karens on these videos, and these stupid ass people never press charges. These stupid ass people never like knock hellfire out of them. I wish all the hells of Karen situation would happen to me, and hopefully I would want it to be a male Karen. I don't know what you call a male Karen, Kevin. I don't know. Because the hell if I sit there and let that shit just slide. But the basis of the conversation.
Just allow me to say this, but I do agree 100% with everything you're saying there, but I just want to throw something also onto that. This is the slave Bible, yeah? So there was also a specific Bible for the slave people. And this was a Bible that contained the verses you've just mentioned there, including slave, obey your masters, and so on and so forth. You understand what I mean there?
Yeah.
So this should come to the realization of the black man that this is not part of us.
Yeah.
This religion is not part of us, not at all. Yeah. And the first step towards freedom is to make sure that we detach completely from this religion.
Well, we need to completely. And the slave Bible, the slave Bible was mainly used in the Caribbean and then into South America. It didn't reach North America until after the 1800s, like around 1812, 1810, before it actually reached North America. What they would do in North America most prominently would just tell the slaves what parts of the Bible they could read and what parts they couldn't, for the one or two that could read, right? But in any case, I just want that little extra information out there. But in any case, it should be ignored. It should be walked away from. Like I got people, I already got some detractors on my Facebook version over here trying to defend this notion of the slave trade, not the transatlantic slave trade not being mentioned in the Bible. Well, shit. America wasn't mentioned in the Bible, but these motherfuckers still believe that America has something to do with the Bible. Like, you know what I'm saying? This is how the indoctrination goes, is that they will try to,
of course.
Like, let me read you, I know you can't see it, but let me read you what this gentleman is saying. I haven't read the whole thing, but this is how the indoctrination goes. He got the same title that you have. Does the Bible condone the transatlantic slave trade? He said, no, the Bible does not mention the transatlantic slave trade because it was written long before anyone in that part of the world even knew the Americas existed. So the people writing those texts, North Central and South America, simply weren't part of the reality. A better way to frame the question is to ask what the Bible says about slavery in general. And the answer is complicated. No, it's not. Much of the Bible was written in context where slavery was a normal part of society from the ancient Near East. Now, you see how this is already trying to hide and backtrack and try to make it okay. The transatlantic slave trade occurred, but its method, its understanding, its core principle is backed and condoned by the Bible. You see, because the Bible says in Leviticus 25, verse 44 through 46, that of your male and female slaves, you may buy them from the foreigners that live amongst you and from foreigners that are around you, and that they are to be your property and you can pass them down to your sons as an inheritance. So that in itself is the same type of slavery that the transatlantic slave trade was. So therefore, it is the Bible condoning the method of slavery that was used for the transatlantic slave trade, because that's what Pope Nicholas used in his papal bull to justify the transatlantic slave trade. And that's what the Christians who participated in the transatlantic slave trade, that's what they based it off of. So it's not confusing as far as, go ahead.
Just allow me add something there. And these type of individuals, they fail to recognize that they possess a lot of special pleading, where from the same Bible, they will quote good things to you, and they will tell you the Bible says so.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I mean? They forget that the next statement that comes out of their mouth is that you know, it never said about this and that. So that is just a special pleading case, and I think that I don't give so much attention to such individuals.
Yeah, if it wasn't for being on this social media thing, I wouldn't even. And I saw somebody on the street talking this, I just walked right past them. But this is the dumb. This is the. They have to, because they believe that their heaven and hell is based on this book. Their life, their afterlife is based on this book. So whatever they need to do to justify the evil of this book, they will. Oftentimes they'll say that, oh, the white man took the book and they've changed it and used it for evil. They used the book exactly how the book describes for you to use the book. So did black people, so did North Africans, so did anybody who became indoctrinated into this book and had a position of power. They used it. Men beat their wives based on this book. So it's some bullshit, you know. Women were subjugated because of this book. The subjugation of women, not paying them as much as you would pay a man for doing the same job, not allowing them to vote. All these kinds of things come from this book. Not allowing them to be witnesses.
And you have to understand that from this book we have the 10 Commandments, which are very clear in what it's trying to state.
Mm-hmm.
If at all slavery was part of God's ideas, if at all he wanted to go against slavery, you understand?
Yeah.
He would have included it amongst the 10 Commandments. You understand what I mean there?
Yeah.
So the fact that it is absent, yeah, shows that in the top 10 valuation of God's criteria of thought, yeah, it shows that this is none of it. It does not exist in the top 10 ideas that God has within his mind. It does not exist at all. You understand?
Yeah.
And we can fetch several verses, not just one, yeah, that promotes slavery from the Bible. You understand what I mean there? And lastly, so that I don't take your time too much, allow me to say this. The slavery that happened in the Bible, the one that the Israelites were put on, God punished the Egyptians. You understand what I mean there?
Yeah.
But the one that happened, yeah, the one that happened here, yeah, God has not shown any punishment, and he doesn't care. Yeah, it has gone by several years. Yeah, he's yet to throw a punishment at all. In fact, if you'd ask most of the guys who are pro-slavery during slavery, if you ask them if there's any punishment, they tell you no. This was instructed to us by God. God cannot punish us after instructing us to do this. So you have to understand the double standards here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's complete. I agree 100%. Like so many, like in talking to my grandparents and them hearing the stories from their grandparents, it's like they was waiting on this Exodus. Like the Exodus story was very like hype for them. They was waiting for this Exodus and for the punishment of the white American. But that shit never happened. It never ever happened that they received any punishment. And up until this day, there has been no punishment on the Americans, the white Americans who enslaved people. And so this whole idea of the Bible, this God, you know, having justice is bullshit, because he wastes the first 4 commandments just on himself. And then at nowhere does he ever talk about, hey, y'all shouldn't own another person. He can tell you not to wear 2 kinds of linen, but he can't tell you not to own another person. He can tell you not to boil a baby calf in his mother's milk, because that's important. But he couldn't tell you not to own another person. So, and he made sure to give a lot of rules when it comes to slavery. And women and children and foreigners are your chattel slavery for eternity, in perpetuity. It never ends. Jesus don't end it. Paul don't end it. None of them end it. It's a continuation, right? So this God is just pure evil. And really, the person that said earlier how this God, it was something that was normal in society at that time. Yes, it was normal in society at that time. So whoever was writing the book wrote their God to fit the normalcy of their society. So is God, was it God then man, or is it man making God? You see, because as soon as you use that argument of what was normal in their society at the time frame of the writing, then you're saying that the power of the pen is mightier than the power of your God. Because this person said, we have slaves. Yes, so we're going to write that God said that you get your slaves from the foreigners. But as far as your own people, you only enslave them for 6 years. Unless you give that dude a wife, and you give him a wife and a child, then the wife and the child don't go free in 7 years. But if he wants to still be with his wife and children, then we're going to push his ass up against a pole, draw all through his ear, and then he going to make his commitment to his master and then be a slave for the rest of his life as well. So we're going to write this in because that's how we already do it in our society. We just going to say that God said it.
Yeah. And it means two things. First things first, it means that this God is evolving. It means that, the more the society becomes moral, the more the God also changes. You understand?
Yeah.
And it also, on the flip side, and it's the problem we have here in Africa, especially to our Christian Africans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they feel like, whatever happened there, the most of arguments I get here is that, God is God, and he can do what he wants to do. He can instruct what he wants to instruct, to the level that if God sends you to unalive your own child today, because that is God, you're going to do it. So it shows the level of control, that religion has on people. And for this, I really feel so sad that people feel like they can still defend something so clear and make it look as if whoever is making a clear case against is the one who is deceived, and they are not the ones that are being deceived. So I think that I really have a problem with that, especially with my African brothers.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I try to highlight my videos to go to certain African nations is because the indoctrination is just as strong there as I find it here in America, where the outgrowth of people who will fight you and kill you over Christianity is crazy, and I don't, and there's so many fake ass pastors taking advantage of people in those situations that they stay stuck to it and believe it. And then, like in Nigeria, they often have a mixture of a little bit of their ancestral religion as well, which makes them feel better. And you see that in the Caribbean and South America too. But Africa needs to be free from this religion more so than anywhere else. And I'm talking, when I say Africa, I do mean the whole continent. I'm not dumb to think Africa is only one country, because of the amount of resources, the amount of power that will eventually come out of Africa. It does not need to be held back by this religion. You from Kenya, so I'm pretty sure you know how I don't know where the East African Federation is at this stage. I don't know if they've gotten their constitution done yet, but as more African nations start to utilize their own resources and become more powerful, to be held by this fake, horrible religion, still believing in it, is only going to dampen their power. So we got to get them out of this religion. And I want to.
It's a gradual process. It's a gradual process, and
we got to speed it up.
Just to give you hopes about this. Most of the people, especially from the city, they are deconstructing massively. They are living religion. Most of them, they are turning back to African spirituality, and they're doing a lot of good stuff. You understand what I mean there? So there is hope and there's light at the end of the tunnel. The thing is that we need more awareness. We need to spread this information. You understand what I mean there? Today, the internet here is the best source of information to many youths. You understand? So the more you share, the more you discuss these things, the more people try to think beyond what they were introduced to. But I would say this to you as the flip side of this. The age beyond 60, most of those guys, about 99% of those guys, all of them are believers.
Yeah.
Like I can even say 100% of them, they are believers.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, they will go away. at some point. Yeah, you understand?
Yeah, eventually they're gonna die.
Yeah, and these guys who are like, now using their brains will be there, and I do trust that in the nearest future, Africa will find itself, it will realize itself, and it will start, bargaining its position in the world map, where we can sit in economical desks and bargain in favor of our own interest. Like, allow me just say this, it might be out of topic, but coffee here in Africa is sold per kg. It is sold about 80 cents US dollars. You understand what I mean? There was this MP who went to that is it. There's this MP who went to I don't know, Netherlands, and he found that in the 5-star hotel he was staying at that same cup of coffee would go for about, call it 130 US dollars. You understand? So the question was, this is the coffee that was sold per kg at 80 cents. How comes it sold, per cup to be $130 in a 5-star hotel? So then it means that the farmer is not valued. The farmer is not valued as he should. So I think that if we start realizing ourselves, we will create a bargaining platform where the world market can now respect the African person, and it can pay what is worth the product. You understand?
Oh, I understand. That's why I support people like Torre and Kagame, because they are moving in those directions. Well, they have been moving in those directions. So I support them. I support Ghana is going back to gold. Senegal is looking to go back to their own gold reserves. So a lot of countries over there are starting. The newest leadership is getting the picture. But let me answer a couple of these questions over here on Facebook. I don't like when incorrect information is being put out. So Becca, she said that the corruption of the Christian church and the practice of forced conversion go back millennia, dating back to 300 AD. By about 325 AD. The Council of Nicaea was held where a group of powerful men decided which writings would make it into the Bible and which would be left out of the Bible. That is absolutely false. The Council of Nicaea did not choose the canon of the Bible. The Council of Nicaea merely organized the Orthodox Christians, which were mostly Romans, Roman citizens, and all they did was establish the Nicene Creed, because the biggest argument of the day was Jesus God, or was Jesus a created being? This was Arianism versus the Trinity. And that was the only thing that was decided, and the Nicene Creed was done. Athanasius was also tasked with determining when Easter would be celebrated throughout the Roman Empire, and was charged with sending letters out. And then for the next 25 years, Athanasius submitted what books should be a part of the Bible. And those are the books that wind up becoming the canon. So the canon was not done in 325. That is a misteaching. That's one of them YouTube teachings. So many of these texts that you're talking about weren't part of anything. They weren't part of anything. And there was another question I saw that somebody said. There was another question. I don't know why y'all still talking to James, though. It's a good thing, Happy, that you're not over on Facebook, because this guy James is like an idiot. Okay, Ed Kutchery, like Kutchmai. Does the Bible condone the Barbary slave trade from blacks who enslaved millions of white Europeans? If my thought process is correct, the Barbary pirates and the Barbaries, they were Muslim. So that has nothing to do with the Bible in one sense. But does the Quran allow for slavery? Yes, it does. It also tells you that you need to have a way for the slave to free themselves. But does the Quran allow for slavery? It does. And then as far as that, but that has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about. So I don't understand the reason why you even wrote that, unless you're just race baiting. But sure, the Bible would condone any type of chattel slavery. Where did I see something else? was this? I believe Jefferson Davis used the Bible as a warrant and justification for slavery in the South as one of his speeches. King Leopold's letter to Belgium, too, also another example of a piece of evidence, too. Right, King Leopold definitely quoted the Bible multiple times, especially when in his letters to the missionaries. Jefferson Davis not only quoted the Bible as far as his use of slavery, but when you read the Confederate Constitution, it also mentions the Bible as a God-given right to own slaves. I wouldn't say Africans created the Bible, but the people who did create the Bible got a lot of wisdom and knowledge from ancient Black spiritual content. Not necessarily. The Bible was not created by Africans. That's completely true. The Bible as a collection of books was done by Europeans, by the people of the Mediterranean, put it that way, by people of the Mediterranean. And the wisdom of it is people of the Mediterranean, which would include Africa, but it also includes Mesopotamia and other areas as well. That's one of the things. We cannot try to make the Bible some type of African spirituality that then was corrupted by Europeans. That is merely pushing a race-based mentality into the conversation. So let's not do that. So I just wanted to get a couple of those questions answered before, but what I want to know is I want to hear from, and I appreciate Happy Africa for being on here, but I really want to hear from a Christian who does not think the Bible condones the Bible, a Bible believer who does not think the Bible condones the transatlantic slavery. I mean, Becca seemed to be making that case. And if you wanted to come on, Becca, I'm posting the link for you to be able to come on, because I'm really interested in where the psychosis that people think that the Bible doesn't condone the transatlantic slave trade, which when I put the transatlantic slave trade, I will admit it's an attention grabber. But I could have just as well said, does the Bible condone chattel slavery? Which chattel slavery is that's what the transatlantic slave trade was about, chattel slavery.
Yeah, and we have to also add on to that the individuals who came to Africa with the Bible or with Christianity, they opened the doors, and even amongst themselves, they're the ones who procured slavery. You understand what I mean there?
Right, so say that again. Like start over for a minute. I'm sorry, start over.
I'm saying we cannot distance these two things, because the individuals who brought us the Bible or Christianity, they are the ones who opened the doors for the colonizers and for the slave masters, and even some of them themselves were the colonizers and the slave masters. So we cannot distance these two things as if the Bible is different from chattel slavery. It's not different. They are the same thing.
Right, it is, and the Bible is no different. And you're saying that we can't distance ourselves from the indigenous people who also brought this slavery? Is that what you said?
No, I'm saying we cannot distance the Bible, and the slavery, and the chattel slavery. We cannot distance the two, because the missionaries from Europe who came to Africa with Christianity and the Bible, they are the ones who opened the doors, that became slavery and became colonizers.
Okay,
you understand?
Got you. No, and you're absolutely right. We actually talked a couple of weeks ago about a book, the Panera Bible, whereas because the missionaries could not convey to this one particular indigenous tribe in South America the message of the Bible, so they wrote a brand new Bible saying that it was the Panera people who killed Jesus, and that's why they need Jesus, right? Like, the missionaries can be so fucking crooked in trying to force this religion over into people that they actually rewrote their own stuff in order to just to convince some people who had no concept of evil, of hell, of all these sacrifices and stuff. And
the devil or Satan, they never had those characters.
So they concocted their own story. But and you're right, the missionaries, and the thing about the missionaries were backed by military armament. They were backed by, here's a guy with a gun, and I'm the missionary, and I'm telling you that you need Jesus, that you've been worshiping the devil, that your worship of whatever gods you've been worshiping is gonna kill you, is gonna send you to hell. But I need Jesus and I need your land. Right? And that was the mission.
Yeah, I guess you've heard of this before. They came with the Bible, they gave us the Bible, and while we were reading the Bible, they took our land.
Yeah.
Now we're left with the Bible, and we don't have our land. Hopefully you've heard that before, yeah?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Definitely. And, some people try to say that the Bible doesn't, the transatlantic slavery was different because it was the only type of slavery that was based on race. But that still doesn't negate the chattel slavery aspect of what the Bible is saying. They simply just turned tribes into race, where the Bible says, of the foreigners, instead of it being the Anglicans saw the Irish as foreigners, the Anglicans saw the Scottish as foreigners. Once Pope Nicholas wrote what he wrote in 1547, obviously, well, it's 1540, yeah, about 15 something, early 15, late 1400s. Once Pope Nicholas wrote what he wrote, it changed. The foreigners stopped being the Irish and the Scottish, and the foreigners were now people of different colors. The African now becomes the foreigner, right? Now, the African would have been the foreigner anyway, because they was from a different tribe, a different land. But now it just added that, okay, we're just going to make tribes based on race. But it still had the chattel slavery aspect of it, which still made it the same thing. It's still chattel slavery. And I'm kind of surprised. I just figured I would get more pushback. I am not getting the pushback that I expected. But yeah, I'm with Randall. I don't think people know how to read, and they refuse to read. But that's the interesting thing about the psychology of it. A Christian can read it, and then they will try to find something to excuse it immediately. They will read it, know what it says, but immediately try to say it can't be that. So it must be something else. So I have to now go find the something else that it is. And they will concoct something into being something that is not in order to justify it. Because they know, as thunders and their personal moral guide, their personal moral guideline says that slavery is wrong. So they have to cognitive affirmation of their confirmation bias. Boondocks, I can see how you wrote that, but I can't even say it right. But he got the perfect words for it. Cognitive affirmation, confirmation bias. So I'm gonna put an of in there. Cognitive affirmation of their confirmation bias. Because they have to have it.
Yeah, and I promise you one thing. You've not seen the first grade of cognitive dissonance yet. The one we experience here in Africa. The one we experience here in Africa is on another level. Mm-hmm. They defend the Bible with everything they got. And allow me to say this. I don't want to mention the country, but the country that was formed in 1948. My African brothers think that is the same country that is in the Bible. They think that is that's the chosen people. You understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I don't know why you over there beating that poor child, ignoring that poor child, not feeding that poor child, making that baby cry in the background.
You're good right now. You're good. But anyway, you understand what I mean there?
Yeah, they
do believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do believe that that is the same chosen people God was speaking of, and they do believe that they should support that country today when that country is, doing a lot of bad stuff to, kids and so on and so forth. So I think that if you come here in Africa, you will find the best cognitive dissonance, like the best ever. Like people here, they just like put away their brains and they just, I don't know what they use. I don't know.
The worst cognitive dissonance that I saw was in Nigeria. I mean, though they would, the quickness to anger and aggression that was demonstrated when I had conversations with people there about their belief in this bullshit. I mean, I that was probably that's the only time when in any African country I ever been in that I literally feared for my life, is when I had conversations with Christians in Nigeria. Didn't have none of that. Nigeria, I mean, sorry. I've been to multiple countries in Africa, let me just put it that way, and never had any fear. Felt comfortable at home, don't want to leave. Nigeria though, them motherfuckers, I thought they was gonna kill me because of their cognitive dissonance and how quickly they jumped to anger and wanted to fight. And I'm not putting that on every Nigerian. I met some very great Nigerians in America, and I met some, and I worked with some of them who were very great. But talk about that damn Christianity, and they ready to die for it, which is crazy to me. I'm not dying for some magic beanstalk God. Mm-mm. So, but you are right. When you look at some of the videos, like that pastor who told them people to go run outside and eat the grass, or the pastor he can't touch the ground, and all this other kind of bullshit. Those things that was working in the evangelicals in America 40, 50, 60 years ago are still well and alive in some of these African countries. Did you speak to Muslims in Nigeria? Not really. I didn't see many Muslims when I was in Nigeria. So.
No. In Nigeria, I think the population is 50-50. Christians and Muslims, 50-50.
Yeah, but I think the Muslims are in the north, and I wasn't in the north. I spent most of my time in Lagos, and then in what's that other bit? It starts with a B, but it's like 3-4 hours from Lagos. But I was mostly in the south. So, and I think Muslims are mostly in the north, right? But Lagos,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure there was some Muslims there because there's too many damn people in that city anyway.
Yeah, and just allow me to point something else here. The most religious continent of them all is Africa. You understand? We are the most religious. We have the most churches here. And if at all somebody took advantage of us, God should have listened to us and pay us back. You understand that? We pray a lot. There are a lot of churches, like maybe if you are Kenya, where you're in Nigeria, there are a lot of churches there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and people pray too much there, right?
Yeah, they pray about everything, and God is mentioning every damn thing. And there's a church on every damn corner. And just for correction, the other city that I went to was Ibadan. I said it starts with a B, but it's Ibadan. But yeah, there is filled with, so it's not Benin. Actually, when I moved to Benin.
Yeah, Judith is saying that in Nigeria, Muslims are more than Christians. It's not 50-50.
Oh, is it? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know when you go to Lagos, it's a whole bunch of Christians and too many people in one city. But I mean, it don't matter. They need to walk away from Islam as well, because Islam is no better. It still allows for slavery. See, any God that allows for slavery is not a good God. Especially if our morality today says that slavery is evil, then that would mean that we are more moral than this God when it comes to human agency. So,
yes, and it makes me think that most of these Christians don't even worship this God for any good reasons, even Muslims, because they don't follow the instructions this God gives them. They don't. They just like, defend the wrong things and make sure that they can give an excuse so that you can look at them differently. So I don't think that they follow this God seriously either.
oh no,
they are just like too emotional.
No, I can just on doing these podcasts. I get the Christians on here who, like the guy from New York, who just wants to yell and call you names and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, but your book tells you that you're supposed to be slow to anger. Where's how do you start out mad? That you're not supposed to be prideful, but you so prideful that you just keep on yelling and talking. And just in how,
that is selective.
Yeah, you see how they
reading, selective.
Yeah,
that is selective reading. They just like choose what they want. They discard what they don't want from the same book. So I think they're not serious at all. I don't think that any Muslim or a Christian is that serious at all. I don't think so.
No, of course not. I'm gonna bring Remy up as well. No, they're not even slightly. If they were practicing their religion, they still be sacrificed. They still be practicing the high holy days, following all the 10 commandments and all the other 613 commandments, but they don't. So Remy.
Hello.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
All right, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Are you a believer?
Yeah, I'm a believer.
But
I'm a Muslim specifically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the channel is called Deconstructing Christianity. Welcome to the show anyway. Now, I will openly admit I do not know as much about Islam as I know about Christianity. I only studied the Quran for about 7 or 8 months back in 1990. So I certainly will never claim that I know the Quran as well as I know the Bible.
It's okay, it's fine. But then there's a big overlap between us and the Christians, especially with the first sets of prophets, whether it's like Moses, Abraham, so on and so forth.
Exactly. So, which I find interesting. So there's when I had my cigar lounge in Atlanta, one of the gentlemen who used to come there, his father is the guy who pretty much established Islam and the mosque in Atlanta, all the mosques in Atlanta. So he was very well versed in the history and the Quran itself. Now, I asked him one time, and I want to see what your response is. I remember asking him, it's a two-part question, okay? I asked him, what is the stance of slavery in the Quran? And what he explained to me is that even though the Quran doesn't want you to have slaves, but you can have slaves, but then you're supposed to make it where over your lifetime, you're supposed to try to help your slaves to gain their freedom. That you're honoring.
Yeah. He's very correct in that we are commanded, at least, that to free slaves is a righteous act, right?
Right.
So that's how we interact with it, because owning slaves on its own, that's a thing that already exists among human beings, right? God did not create slaves; humans did. Right.
Okay, so then explain to me, and this is not the second part of the question that I asked him that I'm going to ask you, but this is just an add-on to what we're talking about right now.
Sure.
So how do you rectify the 1,200 years of the trans-Sahara slave trade?
I mean, first of all, it's, obviously it's 1,200 years or 1,500 years, right?
Yeah, and you can say more because like in Libya, it's still going on.
Yeah.
So how is that justified in Islam?
People in bondage is wrong, right? And we can acknowledge that, right? And, you know, as Muslims, like our duty is, especially because pretty much everybody in the Sahara today is mostly Muslim. So the people who are being victimized today are also Muslim. So this is a huge contradiction.
They still going down and grabbing people on the other side of Sahara, the Africans, the darker African, I should say, because they all Africans.
Yeah.
But the sub-Saharan African was the primary target for the trans-Saharan slave trade. You know, going into Central.
There's more nuance to it, right? Because, you know, you have kingdoms like Mali, right, who are doing these things, who are like, you know, the hub of the Saharan trade system.
Right.
But then they are the ones who are capturing people, whether it's Wolof people, whether it's, you know, Yorubas, who on, so on. Like, they're just capturing everybody they can. And then they ship them off to like the north of Africa, Arabia, so on and so forth.
Right. So if I'm a Muslim, I'm living in Egypt, here comes the Mali caravan with some slaves. How do I justify buying them as slaves? I know that, as Amenhotep, he was saying that the Quran and Hadith condone slavery, and I also knew that Muhammad had slaves himself. So
yeah, he had slaves, but he freed them all, right?
So is that my justification?
He had a conversion moment, right? Because for most of his life, right, for like 42 years, he wasn't a Muslim, right?
Right.
But when he received revelation, right, that's when he, you know, also repented of like anything he did before.
Now, did he free the slave immediately, or was it over time? Was it in his will? Like, how did he free his slave?
Like Ziyad, like his personal household one, he freed him like the month he got revelation, right?
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to.
For the rest of his life, like he, you know, by the point where he passed away, he didn't have any.
Right. So these other caliphates and other people who maintained slaves for longer periods of time, and I know some slaves worked their way into freedom by being in the military and things of that nature. How did they justify having slaves, period? Unless it was condoned.
I can't read people's minds, but then, like, let's say, for example, with the Ottomans, right? For them, it's how they dealt with, like, prisoners of war, right? Because we're talking about a situation where they don't have established prisons or whatever. So instead of, like, taking people out and, like, you know, executing them, right? Right? You'd rather say, okay, hold on, like, you're going to work for us for X amount of time, or, you know, like
okay, prisoner of war, I can see what you're saying in that one, but with the Trans-Sahara was not prisoners of war. That was business.
No, okay. Even across the Sahara, right? Like most, you know, enslaved people came from, like, you know, raids and like warring between these groups.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I would grant you that. But so I think we're pretty much there on that one. So here's the second part of the question that I asked him. Moses is one of your prophets, right?
Prophets, yeah.
So the book of Exodus, the books of Exodus and the book of Leviticus is that part of your belief, your understanding, your teachings?
Okay, we believe in the Torah, right? The first 5 books of Moses, like, that were revealed to him, and the commandments. But, like, there's a big caveat to that, is that what modern, let's say, religions have, like, whether it's, you know, what you see in a synagogue today, what you see in, like, you know, the Septuagint, we believe that to have been altered and changed over time.
Okay, so
yeah.
Then in Leviticus, where in Leviticus 25, verse 44 through 46, where it says, of the foreigners you may buy your male and female slaves and own them as property and pass them down to your sons. Is that something that Islam believes has been changed, or is that original text?
Okay, because we do have an Exodus narrative within the Quran. It's the second chapter, Al-Baqarah, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second chapter of the Quran goes over like Moses' life and, like him leading the people, in the desert. And largely the Quran doesn't mention, this happening, like, giving them permission to enslave other people like that.
So the Quran doesn't have it.
But also, just as a factor of history, yes, did the Hebrews, the Judeans, the Israelites hold slaves? Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it was condoned by the God of the Torah. Mm-hmm. So it was condoned by the God of the Torah, to which Islam believes that the God of the Torah is the God of the Quran, right?
Yeah, the God of the Torah, the God of the Gospels, the God of Abraham. With
the Quran being a revelation that supposedly came to Muhammad by Gabriel, what was it, like 500 CE?
610, about that.
610? Yeah. So in 610, but the Septuagint information you think was changing of the Torah. So where do you get your original writings for the Exodus story or the Torah in itself?
I mean, that's why the revelation by the angels is that much more important, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the parts of the Torah that y'all stand on is the part that was revealed to Muhammad during that.
Yeah, the parts that are corroborated, right? Because it's not that it's completely wrong, right? The 10 Commandments, we agree on those, right? Mm-hmm. Like the prescription against eating pork, we're 100% with them on that. Right.
So basically, it picks and chooses what parts of the Torah that is accepted.
I mean, even among Jewish communities, Samaritans, and like all these groups, right? There's disputes about which of the 613 mitzvah are actually valid, and there's whole discussions in the Talmud and stuff, mm-hmm. Right? So what we're saying is that these are the clarified points, these are the clarified commandments, right? And there's other rulings, right? Because there's other judgments that were made by Aaron, by Joshua, by so on and so forth along the line. Do those also count as revelations? Yeah, that's where the debate is.
I'm with you, but Leviticus 25 should not be debatable because it starts out with the Lord said to Moses to tell the people this. So this is supposedly the commandments of the God of the Exodus, telling Moses what to tell the people. So I don't see how that's debatable when it's supposed to be this God telling them. Not, it ain't Moses.
At least, go ahead. I'm going on what we have, right? Mm-hmm. So what we have is that, as Exodus happened, the Moses got the tablets, he got, all sorts of revelations, and he was given commands, he was told this and this and this and that to do, right?
Right.
But at least within the Quran, right, there's never a section where it says, you must enslave these people, right?
Okay.
And the opposite is that freeing people is good, right? That's what appears, that, giving to charity is good. Resting is good, doing this is good,
No, and those are some good things. I have always said that there are certain things about every religion that have some good stuff in it. But to me, the bad outweighs the good, so there's no need for me to have it at all, right? And it kind of like the personality of these gods are all over the place as well. But I guess what I'm trying to understand is how you skip out, since you're supposed to accept the Torah, how you skip out on some of these finer points within the Torah where the God is saying to do these things. And then it's kind of like the 10 Commandments. Which 10 Commandments are you following? The first 10, or are you following the second 10?
I mean, like, let's say, for example, the first 10, you shall not have any gods except, God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt not unalive people, thou shalt not, make graven images. Those ones are undisputable because they're found in both the Quran and the Torah, right?
Right. Okay. What about the one like when Moses, he broke them, then he went back up, then he came back down, he had some more, and then some of them were similar, but then others was like, don't boil your baby cow in your mother's milk. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I get what you're talking about. Like,
I mean,
let's say,
I don't mean that to sound rude, but it's just a lot of Christians don't even realize that. A lot of people who read the Old Testament don't realize that it says that.
Yeah, because like that's an incident that happens in, I think it was like Exodus 24. Because I've read the book, like a Hebrew Bible a while back.
Mm-hmm.
So I do know that is what's described there. But then, as what we receive, how we receive it in the Quran is that, we're told that, okay, through Moses' story, right, that Moses has been told that you guys should not have any other gods, and then we have a scene where that, these children of Israel start making like a golden calf to worship,
mm-hmm.
right, and then they're reprimanded, and then they're told, do you not remember the law? X, Y, Z happened at the law, right? Don't make idols.
Right, I'm with you. And then he comes down, he kills 3,000 people, and then go back up the mountain. And that's when he destroyed the first 10 tablets, the first tablets. So I'm with you. So I got my understanding. So my understanding is that in the Quran, it doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily follow everything that's in the Torah, just what is corroborated within the Quran of the Torah.
Yeah.
All right. So you can't say that y'all follow the Torah then.
Because to us, the revelation, like what was revealed to Moses, like, and then what's corroborated, that's what we call Torah.
Okay, so the Torah is not actually, what y'all call the Torah is not actually the Torah then.
No, we're not talking about like the book that you see, like, or like the scrolls, right? We're talking about the revelation.
So it's the parts
it's the same way, like.
But you see what you're saying though? It's the parts of the Torah that corroborate what's in the Quran is the only parts that you'll accept.
Of course, right. I mean, this is what makes us a distinct religion, right?
Yeah. I mean, you have to have distinctions in order to be a different religion, and that would make it different. But see, I would have a problem, and maybe this was one of my thoughts when I studied Islam back in 1990, is that I can see that being one of my problems. I don't remember every aspect of why I was like, nah, okay, the Quran's not for me either. But I can see if I was saying like, wait, it's picking and choosing what parts of the Torah that it's going to agree with simply based on what it says. And with it coming, 1,000 years after the Torah was beginning to be written, that's no different. Why should I trust that? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, right? Yeah. But then to us, right, there's been one message throughout time, right? From Abraham's time, even Adam's time, right? Going forward. There's been attempts to like write it down, turn it into a formalized practice, right? But then people have gone astray.
What's the one message?
Each time. Right? The one message is that there's only one God, and he would prefer that, we do righteous things, right?
Okay, but now you have to define righteous, because righteous in the Old Testament is different than righteousness in the New Testament. Well, let me rephrase that. Righteousness in the Old Testament is different from some of the righteousness in the Old Testament, and definitely the righteousness of the Paulinian New Testament. Oh, man, I still said it wrong.
Paul at all, right?
Right, I still said it wrong. Righteousness in the Old Testament is somewhat different and somewhat the same as Jesus' New Testament, but very different from Paul's New Testament. So what would be righteousness in Islam then?
Righteousness, first of all, it's like the worship of God, right? There's only one God, right? And second to that is like, simple things. Honor your parents, like do not unalive people without cause, right? Like self-defense is fine because it's you or them, right? But then that you shall not like unalive people, right?
What about taxing non-Muslims?
I mean, like we're within the Quran, we're commanded like we should not fight people unless they're fighting us, right? Yeah. So if they're doing their thing, they're leaving us alone, we're leaving them alone, that's fine.
No, I was talking about taxes. Like, if I remember correctly, there's a part of the Quran that says that, you don't tax, no usury towards other Muslims, but for non-Muslims, you can tax the hell out of them.
On something, right? I mean, we can't take usury at all from anybody, right?
I could be wrong, but I distinctly remember where it was, you can tax foreigners.
Okay, are you saying tax or like,
like money, tax, like this is $1, but then here's the sales tax.
Tax, the jizya, right? If you're talking about the protection tax that, for let's say, if Christians live in a, Muslim society, they pay a tax, right? Yeah. If that's what you're talking about, then that exists. But if you're talking about interest, let's say on a loan, right? You loan me $1,000, right?
Now I'm talking about
and then I have to pay you like 100 on that.
Yeah, I understand usury. I'm talking about taxes. Like I distinctly remember either reading or being taught that under the Quran that you can levy heavy taxes on non-Muslims in order for them to, that you can just tax the shit out of them. And then once they then convert to Islam, you stop taxing.
It's comparable to like the religious tax that Muslims have to pay, right? Let's say, for example, like Muslims pay something like 5%, towards the community. It's called zakat, right? And then a non-Muslim would also have to pay that, right? But then it's not for religious reasons; it's for like protection reasons.
They have to pay extra tax for protection reasons.
Yeah.
Protection from whom?
They like think about like social security, like. So for all of us to have like this, if a Christian is, let's say, for example, a homeless, right? It's still on the Muslims in that society to take care of that person, regardless.
So they have to pay an extra tax for them to get Social Security, but Muslims don't have to pay extra tax?
Okay, from our perspective, everybody, regardless of how good or bad or whatever they are, they have to get like, some form of like Social Security. And especially orphans and widows.
Okay. But okay. What is the purpose of the extra tax on the non-Muslim? You said it's for protection. I said protection from whom? So it's not a protection from an individual or a group of people. It's protection for Social Security type for like old age.
Yeah, it's like because the money's going to be distributed, to like feed people and like clothe or do,
But the Muslim doesn't have to pay that extra tax, but still get the same benefit.
No, like all Muslims have to pay 5%.
Okay, but there's an extra tax on non-Muslims. You said that's for protection.
No, everybody in society has to pay something, right?
Everybody. Okay.
Muslims, yeah, everybody has to pay something.
But is there an extra tax that non-Muslims have to pay? And you said
on this, allow me just prompt you to read. I'm speaking to you, deconstructing. I'm speaking to you specifically. I just want you to Google right now. This is from the Quran, 9 verse 29. Just Google that right now. 9 verse 29. 9 verse 29. That is chapter 9 verse 29. Just Google it for me right now.
Let's see. For those who do not believe in Allah and the last day, nor comply with what Allah and his messenger have forbidden, nor embrace the religion of truth from among those who were given the scripture, until they pay the tax, willingly submit, fully humbled. So let me read that again, because I read that kind of choppy. For those who do not believe in Allah and the last day, nor comply with Allah and his messenger have forbidden, nor embrace the religion of truth from among those who were given the scriptures, until they pay the tax, willingly and submitting, fully humbled. So what does that mean? That sounds like you're paying an extra tax.
Yeah, generally it means that they're supposed to pay the tax, and they're supposed to be humble, and they're supposed to submit. Submit is very key there. And I think that Rahim here, he's my friend. We have debated this before. He's one of my guys, and I think he came here because the FYP sent him here because of me. And I think he's just selling you the benign side of Islam. He's failing to recognize that Islam describes or prescribes a lot of violence towards non-believers and towards apostates, which is extremely real. But they do have cognitive dissonance in order to protect this. And on this particular verse, we can clearly see that if you're not a believer, I don't know if you're a believer or not, but on this particular verse, if you're not a believer, you're supposed to pay the tax, and you're equally supposed to submit and be humble. If not, they are supposed to fight you. They are supposed to fight, like it states, fight those who do not believe in Allah and the last day. That is to mean, fight those who don't believe in Allah till the last day.
No, the last day is the judgment day.
Yeah, but you should fight them till that day.
No, not till that day and the last day, right? Those people who don't believe in God and judgment day.
Okay.
Yeah, but you should fight them. The prompt here is you should fight them. That is very clear. And if they pay tax, and if they submit, and if they are humble, then you should not fight them, right? Yeah. So we have to understand that the tax they are being put on, and where they should submit and where they should be humble is because they are non-believers. We should be clear.
Yeah. And let me
say, but still, like,
let me just ask
people within
Remy. Go ahead.
People within, like, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, Remy. Go ahead. I'll ask you this after you respond to him, because that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna respond to Jeb. Like, I'm just trying to say, like, in terms of like if tax evasion, right? Even for Muslims, right? We have like controls for that. We say that, hey, you can't skimp out on zakat. you cannot literally not pay your dues to society. Right? So even for Muslims, you have to pay your taxes, right? Or else.
Right. So just on a quick little research beyond that, so I can understand it, because sometimes it says stuff, but you got to break it down a little bit more. And basically, what the footnotes are saying is that all people under Islamic rule had to pay the zakat, which is 2.5% of their savings. But it says, and non-Muslims were required to pay a word that I cannot pronounce.
Jizya.
Yeah, that. Taxes for protection from foreign enemies. So that's the who that I was asking, who are you paying these taxes for? These extra taxes. So it has nothing to do with like a Social Security. You're paying this extra tax in order for the Muslims that you are living under to make sure that they defend you against foreign enemies. And it says that if they found that the Muslim rulers didn't defend the non-Muslims in their region, then the tax will be refunded back to them. So just living under Islamic rule, even though everybody is supposed to be protected, the non-Muslim has to pay extra money for that protection, that seems a little cheating. That doesn't seem fair. You understand what I'm saying? That's like, if, like, I haven't paid taxes in America since 1991, simply because I just.
Oh, should you be saying that?
Oh, I can say it, and I can say it. And when I was audited, they actually wound up giving me an extra check for $700. One thing I know, that tax code like the back of my hand. So, yeah. So I haven't paid taxes since 1991. Now I'm about to pay some taxes, only because I know what I want to do in the next 2 years. But anyway, the thing about it, that would be like the American government saying, "Well, I don't have to protect you because you haven't paid taxes." You understand what I'm saying? That
yeah,
I don't have to, but if you want my protection, oh, even better. You know what? Negate what I just said. A better situation would be for all the immigrants who haven't become American citizens yet. It would be like the American government saying, "Hey, even though everybody pays taxes and everybody taxes goes into part of the military budget, but for you immigrants who are not American citizens yet, we're going to charge you an extra tax to put into the military industrial complex." That's not right. I wouldn't call that righteousness.
Look, if they fail, it's like if the cops or the fire department fails to like put out a fire or take care of you, right? Can you go to your local PD and ask them back for your money?
No.
Because in this system, you would be able to do that because they failed on their obligations, right? You can get your money back.
This is true. I understand what you're saying, but why should a people living under your rule have to pay extra taxes for what everybody else is already getting as well in their regular taxes? You understand what I'm saying? So it's like you're gonna get fire department is supposed to come to anybody's house who's on fire, whether they are paying taxes or not, because they live in the city that they live in. It shouldn't be that, oh, because you are a foreigner, you got to pay more taxes for the same service. That's extortion. You're extorting people.
Like, you can make it clear that you don't want to pay this tax, and then like they'll just wash their hands off of you and say, "Okay, fine, don't call us if anything happens."
No, according to that, well, y'all call them surahs, right?
Yeah, surahs. Like,
according to that surah,
it's a chapter.
According to that chapter, if you live with us, you got to pay this tax. There's no option to opt out. You have to pay this extra tax to live here and get the same service.
Right? Then you have a case, right? You can get your money back.
But you shouldn't have to pay the tax, period. That's extortion. Like, sometimes I think health insurance is extortion, right? Or car insurance is extortion. If I go a whole year without an accident, what did I just pay that money for? So to me, it's extortion. But so you live in a Islamic country. Everything's peaceful. You live your whole life, no bandits, no foreign enemies attack. So you just paid this tax, an extra tax, for the same protection that everybody else got, and no one ever attacked you. So that's not.
Ideally, that's because the protector, the Sultan, was doing his job right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know why both of you are neglecting the fact that we just read it, and the first stanza clearly states, "Fight them." I don't know why both of you are avoiding. Just read it again.
Yeah.
Fight them.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what it says?
I was gonna get to that, man. Hold on. I wanted to hit the tax part because I love taxes. Okay, but I'm with you. I am with you, African Happy. But before I get there, shit, you made me forget what I was gonna say. You're paying this tax. There. Oh, so no, I know what I was gonna say before I got there. So the only way that you can get out of this tax, and this is where the fight then is going to come into play with what I'm about to say. The only way to get out of this tax is if you then convert over to Islam, and then you get out of having to pay this tax, and so you get to save some of your money.
No, you get another tax. Just like you get another tax.
No, you don't.
Now you have to pay zakat.
No, you're already paying zakat.
No,
Zakat.
There's two taxes. There's jizya for non-Muslims, and then there's zakat for Muslims.
No, it's everybody has to pay. Ooh, that was probably the VA. I have to call them back. Everybody is supposed to pay the zakat. That's what all people living under Islamic rule. The people who are
zakat is specifically for Muslims, right? And it's equivalent for non-Muslims is the jizya. Right? Think about them like two tax brackets, right? Separate from each other.
That's not how it's broken down. And then the only way you don't have to pay the extra tax is if you become Muslim. And like my man said, that could be the reason why it says fight those who do not believe in Allah and the last day. So one of the ways that I'm going to force you into believing in Allah is to overtax you until you're willingly submitting and fully humbled. See, that's why it says until they pay the tax and then willingly submitted and fully humbled. So they have to pay this tax until they convert over to Allah, which is another form of forced indoctrination or fighting with them, you know, other than with the sword to their neck and forcing them to convert over to Islam. Because many people during the trans-Saharan slave trade and just during the Arab conquest was forced into Islam by sword. So I don't see that. And to go back to the thing, that's not righteousness when you're forcing people through taxation or through violence to become part of a religion.
I mean, like the way I see it, right, is like people have obligations, right? And for the same reason the IRS hunts people down, even put Al Capone in jail, right? Is like you want to incentivize people to do good things, whether that's paying like, you know, for like protection, paying for like, you know, arms, right? You want that to happen, right? So society can like work together.
So why fight them though? Why fight them? Why fight them though?
It's a good point.
It's like if they don't pay, like society's gonna.
No. It doesn't say if they don't pay. It says fight them until they pay taxes, they humble, and they submit. So you are fighting them prior to that. You know. We are three honest men here, so let us just swallow it as it is. You know, it might be bitter for you, but let us just swallow it as it is. It says you should fight them. It says fight them prior to. So you fight them until they submit, they pay taxes, and they are humble. Let us just accept it.
I accept it. It's saying to fight them, and I know you're trying not to say it's not an extra tax, but it's an extra tax. So you're fighting them through taxation.
No, but something I will say that, right? Most Christians historically used to pay a tithe, right, to their churches, right?
Okay.
So if you add like the tithe and like jizya, it would look like that.
Can we focus on the fact?
And that doesn't make it right. And saying that.
No. Can we focus? No. Rami, no. Remy, sorry to cut you short, man. Remy, focus on the fight them, which comes before the tax, before the humble, before the submission. Can you tell us about why you're fighting them prior?
I mean, if they're fighting you, right? Because like we have it.
They are fighting you.
Yeah.
You
in
said
chapter 2, verse 190, right?
Well, come again.
Like chapter 2, verse 191, like you'll see that it says that, hey, you fight people who are fighting you, right?
I don't doubt that. It might say that, or it says that. But here we are clearly told, fight them.
Yeah, why does
it's not even saying fight back. It's not saying fight back until this and that. It clearly says fight them, which is very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So that's
you shouldn't be. You shouldn't reference.
191.
You
right?
should. This is one of the things I always tell to Christians. Referencing something else that does not have anything to do with what it's actually saying in this one part. Right? We shouldn't have to go somewhere else to try to explain what 929 says. Right? 929 should be able to stand on his own. Right? If it's the word of Allah.
Context, like, look, I'll say this: everything needs context. Right? You can't just pick one word, one verse, whatever, and then like just
but still, I'm willing to grant you that verse relates with this, but still, it's very clear. Fight them. It does not say fight them back. You understand? It's loud and clear.
Yeah, of course. But then look, if we're told to fight, right, we have to look at the other context of what else we've been told, like, constitutes fighting, right? You can only fight those who are fighting you, who wage war against you. But we also told not to exceed limits.
It's difficult when a believer puts on the cognitive dissonance suit. It's very difficult. But the facts.
Would you prefer us to be like Buddhists and say renounce like fighting altogether?
Right? Yeah, that'd be great.
No. But still, that's not
so even renounce self-defense. Is that what you ideally?
Well, I know, but self-defense is one thing. But as I'm going through the chapter 9 of it and see context, people like to take context and say, "Oh, well, chapter 9," and then I'm gonna run over to chapter 100. No, chapter 9 provides all the context that you need for the verse that it is being said in verse 29. All right, and the context in verse 29 has nothing to do with someone attacking you, right?
It's just because like in the previous, like in the next verse after that, it's about like polytheists, and then like it's also about like some people are claiming Ezra is the son of God, right?
Yeah. So you said if people are attacking you, you should fight them. So the verse above it, "O believers, indeed the polytheists are spiritually impure, so they should not approach the sacred mosque after this year. If you fear poverty, Allah will enrich you out of his bounty, if he wills. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. Fight those who do not believe in Allah and the last days." So that doesn't say if these polytheistic people are attacking you, fight them in self-defense. This is saying they're polytheists. They're impure. They shouldn't approach the mosque. So fight these people if they don't believe in Allah in the last day.
The context of when this was revealed was that the polytheist had previously broken like a treaty. Like if you read the next verse after that, right?
The Jews say
it mentions is the polytheists who actually upheld their end of the bargain. You can keep going. Right?
It says the Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah, while the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. Such are their baseless assertions, only parroting the words of earlier disbelievers. May Allah condemn them. How can they be deluded from the truth? They have taken their rabbis and monks, as well as the Messiah, son of Mary, as Lord besides Allah, even though they were commanded to worship none but one God. There is no God worthy of worship except him. Glorified is he above what they associate with him. This doesn't say anything about some treaties being broken or them attacking them. This is just...
You have to go back to like the polytheists and stuff like that.
Yeah, so basically, the whole chapter, they're just saying if...
It's not just a mental gymnast. It's just a mental gymnast. We are being thrown all over the place.
No, I'm literally going with this.
No. Give me a moment.
Brought up the verse. Happy. You're the one who brought up the verse, but you refuse to read
the entire thing. And I still stick to it. It clearly states, and I'm repeating myself for almost the third time, that it clearly states, fight them. Yeah, and from the prayer verse, when you're coming down, you find that before you fight these guys have been called spiritually impure prior to you being asked to fight them. So there is a prompt before that. which says these guys are spiritually impure. Then you fight them until they submit, until they are humble, until they pay taxes. I think it's the most clear thing I've come across today. But for you, you need to put your cognitive dissonance suit and start arguing against it. But still,
no, like you are cherry picking. Like you cherry picked this verse, right?
No, it clearly,
you won't allow me to defend myself. You won't allow me to defend my points, right? Because if you start Ataba, like chapter 9 from the top, right? It says that, okay, these people who broke treaties with you, like all bets are off. You were discharged from them, right? And then it says, like, these people can travel freely except on the sacred months, right? And then, like, it says, if these polytheists have honored every term of their treaty and have not supported the enemy against you, honor your treaty with them, right? Because Allah loves those who are mindful of Him. Because, within our system, right, you can make a treaty with somebody, even if you don't believe the same thing as them.
Okay, and I see the parts that you're talking about, that some of them broke the treaty, but for those who didn't break the treaty or support your enemies, that you are to allow them to safe passage during the sacred month. And then, but once the sacred month has passed, then you kill the polytheists who have violated your treaties. Wherever you find them, capture them, besiege them, and lie in wait on them in every way. But if they repent, perform prayers, and pay alms, taxes, then set them free indeed. All right, so Allah is forgiving and all that sort of thing. And if any one of the polytheists asks for protection, grant them. All right. And I see how you're putting the emphasis on the treaties and those who and those who have broken the treaty, but 29 has nothing to do with that, with the breaking of the treaties, because this is telling them how to live when people live in your kingdom. They're living in your kingdom. They're not breaking the treaties, because obviously you're supposed to kill the ones who broke the treaties. So by the time we get to 29, these ain't treaty people. These ain't people who are violation of the treaties. These are just those who live in your kingdom, and you are to fight them who don't believe. But
no, because because the polytheists are the ones who don't believe in Allah and the last day, right?
Yeah, the polytheists don't believe in the Allah.
The entire chapter prior to this is just me talking about polytheists. After it starts talking about like people who claim Ezra is this or that.
Mm-hmm. But you are still, and then I still contend that the other way that you're fighting them is to overtax them.
Mm-hmm.
To
so
give them an
extra extortion, right?
Yeah, to extort them for a service that they naturally are gaining because they're paying both the first tax anyway, and then they got to pay this extra tax in order to have, because they're not Muslim. Because if they were Muslim, they would pay the same tax as the Muslim pay only. That's extortion. That's so at the very beginning, I was talking about, I asked you what righteousness is, and that is extortion is not righteousness.
But I'm saying it in terms of like incentivizing, doing the right thing, whether it's like protecting your neighborhood, protecting the state.
That's not
protecting people.
You're gliding right by it. You're not incentivizing them, you're punishing them. That is not you're not
if the state fails.
No, you're
the Sultan fails.
You're incentivizing them by saying that this is the I don't know the right word to use with incentivizing here, but you're basically saying, so I'm gonna go the long way around. You're basically saying that, hey, you got to pay the regular tax and you got to pay this extra tax, but I'm going to incentivize you to not have to pay the extra tax if you convert over to Islam. That's the incentive, is not to gain the services, but to not pay as much in taxes, but that's only if you convert to Islam. Then So you're not being incentivized to do the right thing.
Muslims have different obligations, right?
What?
Muslims have different obligations, like, you know, whether it's like the specific zakat tax, whether it's like, there's no ifs and or buts if you know, you have to defend other Muslims, right? Like, let's say, for example, like joining the army, the military, the defense, whatever thing you have, right? All Muslim men especially are obligated to join, right?
Okay.
If you're not Muslim, you don't have to.
Okay. So that has nothing to do with I'm going to tax you extra unless you convert over to Islam.
Let me just ask you a honest question.
Yeah.
Would you logically admit that this criteria of handling people convinced people into joining Islam?
I'm sure, you know, for some people, just like the taxes were enough to convince them.
So if this is the case, don't you think that people are being manipulated here?
Manipulated in what sense?
In any sense, you take it as you wish, but don't you think that people are being manipulated into joining Islam by using this criteria?
Well, this is an economic manipulation. Do you think that they're being economically manipulated to join Islam? Because
and you have to understand.
I think they're being incentivized, yes, but manipulated, no, because, you know, from my point of view, right, I perceive Islam to be the truth. So if I'm convincing you to believe something that's already true, it's not manipulation. There's no deceit.
So you get it. It's true to you. It's true to you. It's not true to me. So whatever you're doing towards me, yeah, it's still manipulation. It doesn't matter what your view on it is.
Yeah, because it's not true to me. So you're manipulating me to believe in what you believe through economics. That's manipulation, not incentivizing. So let me give you an example of what incentivizing and how I have avoided paying taxes for the majority of my adult life. The federal government incentivizes you to be able to have better tax breaks if you start a business, right? So I'm being incentivized to start a business, which is a benefit to the overall economy of America by providing jobs, services, and things of that nature. And my incentive is that I get bigger and better tax breaks than the regular employee.
Sure.
You're trying, in this case, the extra taxes is to manipulate me into joining and changing my belief system in order to pay less taxes for the same services that I was getting anyway. That's manipulation, not incentivizing.
And
But would you say that the government is manipulating you to start a business?
No, I'm not being, because I don't have to.
You don't have to convert, right? But you'll have to pay a tax one way or another.
You'll have to pay an extra tax.
Even in North Africa, right, in Egypt, there's millions of Christians, right? And they've existed like that for centuries. Right? There's Zoroastrians in Iran, there's Hindus in India. Despite all these places having, you know, Muslim rulers one way, like in the past.
Yeah.
Because if anything, right, if what you're saying is true, right, a Muslim ruler is disincentivized to convert like most people.
So I see how in your thought process you want to see it as a good thing to force people or trick people into believing in Islam, right? But it's not an incentive. To the person that is being done to, is manipulation. It's not incentivizing, right? So if I was living in Egypt and they told me that I have to pay this extra tax every year because I'm not Muslim, not because, then to me, they're trying to manipulate me. I'm not incentivized, I'm manipulated into doing so.
Yeah, and also just to chime in there, you have to understand that the reason why these Christians still exist in Egypt is not because Islam has allowed them.
It's because of secularism. It's because of
so 500 years ago, Egypt was secular.
No, I'm not saying that Egypt was secular by then. I'm just saying part of
how did the Christians exist 500 years ago? How did they exist 1,000?
So do you accept? Do you accept that today this is happening because of secularism? Before we move back to 500 years ago.
Yes, the current Egyptian government.
So that was my first case. And moving back, you equally have to understand that Christians were also pushing back. Christianity was also growing outside of Egypt. And if at all Islam was to touch Christianity in Egypt, Christians from outwards of Egypt would also assemble and come against Islam in Egypt. So you have to understand.
Like, look, the Crusaders ignored Egypt, right? That wasn't their goal. Their goal.
Because Muslims prior to that also understood that the Crusaders are available, so they were like, no, we are not going to touch these guys. So that is beside the point.
What the Crusaders lost, like the vast majority of people in the Holy Land are not Christian, right? They failed.
Well,
no.
They went back and forth.
After that period of time, a lot of other factors were involved in order to change this particular situation. But still, I want to point out something new, but still correlated to this. You join Islam, via very different ways, this one included, but you're not allowed out of Islam. So you're put inside this loop. And we have several verses, my dear brother, I'll give you some of them, where you are not allowed to exit Islam. So there's only an entry, there's no exit. And if you want to exit, the repercussions are there. You're supposed to be even unalive. Some of them prescribe.
That's sourced from the Hadiths, yes.
No, of course not. It's sourced from the Quran itself. An-Nisa, I think that's An-Nisa verse 88 to 89. Just search that, mister. Just search that, please. Deconstruct, just search that for me. An-Nisa 88, 89. Search that for me. An-Nisa 88, 89. So you put into a loop, Somebody's telling you, you can join if you want, and we're going to give you a leeway to this particular enforcement. And then when you're in, you're not allowed out. So it is An-Nisa, I think that should be A-N, then N-I-S-S-A. An-Nisa, then that is verses 88 to 89. So if you have them, please, you can just read before we get marinated by cognitive dissonance. You can just read that fast. You have it?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah. An-Nisa, that should be A-N-N-I-S-S-A, that is 88 and 89.
Chapter 4, verse 88, 89.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if An-Nisa is before. Yeah. Just read it for us, so that we can be clear here. We have already understood, regardless of what he is trying to defend here, we've already understood that people are being manipulated into Islam. You understand? But there is no exit. You understand here? There is no exit. You're taken in, but you cannot come out. An-Nisa 88, 89. You have it?
I think so. Why are you believers divided into two young groups regarding the hypocrites, while Allah allows them to regress to disbelief because of their misdeeds? Do you wish to guide those left by Allah to stray? And whoever Allah leaves to stray, you will never find for them a way. They wish you would disbelieve as they have disbelieved, so you may be alike. So do not take them as allies unless they immigrate in the cause of Allah. But if they turn away, then seize them and kill them wherever you find them, and do not take any of them as allies or helpers.
And then you could read the next verse too, right?
Oh shit, wait.
Like 490.
Yeah, I know it's kind of like this scroll went too far. Except those who are allies of a people who are bound within a treaty, or those wholeheartedly opposed to fighting either you or their own people. If Allah has willed, he would have empowered them to fight you. So if they refrain from fighting you and offer you peace, then Allah does not permit you to harm them.
Exactly. You see, I knew what you were doing, Happy, right? You were going to like clip it out of context and say that, you know.
So basically saying that if those who goes away from Islam but they don't want to fight you, then don't kill them. But for those who want to fight you, kill them. That's what you're saying.
Because like that will turn into a self-defense thing. If somebody comes in, becomes a spy, you know, you're chilling with us, we're eating with us, and then you leave the camp to go back, you know, to the enemy camp, right? You're not a threat, right? Because the first thing is also about hypocrites, right? People who say one thing and then do another thing. So this is more about like people who come into the fold, right? Who pretend to be with us and then they turn against us, right? But if this person wholeheartedly like hasn't, you know, they have nothing, they're not gonna fight us, like we have no beef with them.
I see. So I can see what both you guys are saying in a sense, because it does specify those who are in a treaty with you, or those who are wholeheartedly opposed to fighting either you or their own people. That for those people you don't kill. But it still turns a little sour with the idea that those who have come to disbelieving, that if they turn away, then seize them and kill them wherever you find them, and do not take any of them as allies or helpers. So it's like a person turns away, I don't want to believe anymore, and I don't want to be your ally or your helper. So then you're to kill them. But those who want to be your allies or helpers, then you don't kill them.
Or who are completely opposed to fighting you.
So
hey, I want to leave, no hard feelings, right? I'm not going to do anything against you guys.
Yeah, but this can be taken like okay. So if let's say I was living in Saudi Arabia and I was running a Quran deconstruction channel, right? Deconstructing Islam, right? I'm not an ally or a helper to Islam at that point, because I'm teaching people to walk away from Islam. I'm not physically attacking anyone. I don't have a treaty, but because it can be seen as me not being an ally, then they could come kill.
That's why you should clarify. You could say, "Hey, look, I have no hard feelings, right? My goal isn't to harm, you know, Muslims or the Muslim community. It's just to talk to people, right?"
Yeah. So basically, if I walk away from Islam, I need to sit down and shut up and just live my life. But if I want to help other people walk away from Islam, then Muslims can come and kill me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I think that's like a very like uncharitable interpretation, but you know.
Well, I mean, if we put it into, so all these books mature or change as the civilizations change. So, but even in the old back in the day, if I was someone who didn't physically fight, but if I was standing on a corner on a pedestal saying that Islam is wrong, then they can kill me. So that motif fits no matter what. That I can be non-violent But violence can be acted upon me because I'm not an ally to Islam, just through my words. So it's not just putting it into today's terms or looking at it from our point of view today, but at any time frame. If I spoke against Allah, then I'm not an ally. I'm not a helper.
No, but look, it's about making yourself clear. Like, what are your intentions? Are your intentions to harm like the Muslim community, or to like, leave them alone? Because let's say, for example, Christians say things, right? Even street preachers and so on and so forth, right? They say things which are completely against what we believe, right? Such as the Trinity, right? And most of the time, nothing happens, right?
Okay, wait a minute. Say that one more time.
Yeah.
Say that one more time.
Like, there's literally street preachers in Nigeria, the street preachers in Egypt, anywhere, right? Who are preaching things which contradict our beliefs, right? So they're saying, the end times are coming, you guys need to repent, right? But we have to leave them alone, because at least by their words, they're not harming us directly.
Okay, in secular countries, you would be correct. But do you know that if I went to Saudi Arabia and I tried to evangelize, that is imprisonment and death? If I went to Dubai,
that's a specific thing to like Saudi Arabia.
But right? If I not just Saudi Arabia, if I went to Dubai, it is illegal to give out Bibles or evangelize. I will be put to death. Right. So in Bahrain, same thing. In Qatar, same thing. I don't know.
That's specific to the Gulf countries, right? Those are laws that they've added.
In Iran, but it's those. But that's just like what I was originally talking about, which is slavery. That's just like the slavery thing. Those laws are added based on what the Quran says. You see what I'm saying? So if I was the king of Saudi Arabia and I'm reading that surah, that chapter, then I will say that, a person who evangelizes Christianity is doing harm to the Muslim community, so kill that bastard. Because that's what this.
And you get judged for that, right? If you kill a person like this and you do such like an evil act, right? God will take you down on Judgment Day.
But according to,
at least that's what we believe.
But see, right? That's what you believe, because there are millions of people in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Qatar, Bahrain, Iraq, Iran who disagree with you.
Of course, they disagree with me, right?
Right.
But then the vast majority of Muslims don't live there, right? They live in Indonesia, they live in Nigeria, they live in Turkey, right?
And that's the thing. You're living in Turkey, Nigeria, more secular countries that are making laws not solely based on their book, not solely based on the Quran. It's based on societal norms. When you have these theocracies, and even in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates is more liberal than Saudi Arabia, so they don't hold true to every law, everything based on the Quran either themselves. So that's what makes all of this such. How can you claim it to be the word of God when you can look through history and you can look country for country, group for group, and the same laws, the same writings are translated to have different meanings depending upon what culture you live in and what time era you live in.
Of course.
So just like the Bible supported the transatlantic slave trade, what Happy is saying, the Quran supports Peaceful Storm, who is somebody on YouTube. She's a Christian. She believes in the Bible, the Christian Bible. Her going to Saudi Arabia, and especially as a woman, she would be stoned for preaching the Gospels, according to her beliefs, because it's being deemed as being harmful. Now she can go to Turkey and she might get yells and boos, but she ain't gonna get stoned. The government is not gonna kill her.
Yeah.
So with different translations of the same thing, different thought processes of the same thing, but this God is supposed to be one God, all unifying, but the message is corrupted or changed or thought of different ways depending upon the culture and the people.
Of course, right? And that's a real thing, right? That, you know, different people have different interpretations. There are objectively bad interpretations, right?
Well, you say that.
Scripture.
I guarantee if you were born and raised in Saudi Arabia, you would not think, you would think that you now are wrong. That your interpretation is
no,
bad.
Like the vast majority of people in Saudi Arabia aren't even like the same sect as the royal family. But then the royal family it's not a democracy.
No, it's not.
Right. So like people can't voice their opinions. So there's like a different sect called Shia in Saudi Arabia, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it's not like they can voice like their opinions and say, oh, you know, we would like to interpret this verse like that.
You're saying they can't?
They can't.
Right. So, but do you understand the point? You are the type of Muslim that you are based on, I don't know where you're from, but based on where you're from.
I'm from Kenya. It's in East Africa. I think Happy's also from Kenya.
Oh, damn, both y'all in Kenya, or from Kenya at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Kenyans have a different version of Islam that they practice than the people in Saudi Arabia. And it's all based on the country that you're in and the history of your country. So how can you trust how can you trust what is the true word of your God if it's reliant on where you were born, who you was exposed to?
It's not necessarily where you're born, but like, you know, the Quran addresses this, that people will have to use their reasoning, their akal, right, to like understand the word of God, right?
But they all have different reasonings. They still come up with different concepts. And those concepts are based on where you are growing up, where your influences are in your culture.
That's true.
You know? So how can you then solidly, other than just emotions, say that you have the right translation, the right understanding, when someone else has a completely different one based on culture?
The truth is, like, I don't know, right? But I'm trying my best and I have faith.
That is, right? You know what? That is one of the answers of integrity that I can hardly ever get out of a Christian, is to say, I don't know, and I'm doing my best.
Yeah, that's great.
I can try my best again, like with the articles of faith that I have, and you know.
Mm-hmm. And you realize that your articles of faith is based on the culture that did you grow up in Kenya?
Yeah, I grew up in Kenya, right?
So your set of morality that you're overlaying the Quran with is really based on you growing up in Kenya, not so much what the Quran says.
I mean, both two things can be true at the same time, right? Like I can follow what the Quran says, and then I'm informed by the people, you know, our teachers, our schools of thought here, right? We even have Muslim jurists. This is part of our legal system in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No, and those two things are true, but the other aspect of that truth is that your culture has more influence than the Quran itself, because you're curving the Quran to fit the culture.
I mean, the Quran is more of like an instruction of, like, you know, especially what we ought to do, right? If it tells me to like love my mom, right? My culture could be like, your mom's not that important, right? But then the Quran, like the word of God, would come and like add, you know, it's like medicine, right?
In some instances, I would agree with you on that one.
But
there are going to
say, would you say that the absence of Islam or the absence of the Quran would bring about somebody opposite to what the Quran makes you become?
Yes and no.
How is it even a no?
Because like a person could be righteous, right, and try their best without like revelation directly. Right? That's a possible thing. Some people are led astray by people who claim to be Muslim.
So and then by accepting that, you're making Islam and the Quran independent of morality.
Like, yeah, like even bad people can do good things, right? Look, I can acknowledge that a Hindu can do good things, right? Can do morally sound things,
Yeah, so it means that our morality is independent of whatever the Quran says or whatever Islam says. So you cannot make it as if it's the medicine that helps you become who you are. No, the society would have done that even in the absence of your Quran.
Yeah, but this is like the distilled medicine, right? Because you can have like willow bark, it's from a tree, right? And you can have like Advil, right? Advil is like the prescription, like, medicine. But then willow bark will also work. There is a better way. There is like a, straighter path, as we call it.
So would you say that the difference you're pointing out right now makes Hindus less moral than you?
It depends, right? Because like they could do good things.
Of course not. The correct answer is of course not. So there's no relevance. There's no relevance of your Quran and Islam to a Hindu person.
I mean, the relevance is that, let's say, like the Hindus have a claim that there's multiple gods, right? And then in the Quran, it rectifies that and says there's one.
Well, actually,
here.
Actually, Hinduism teaches that there is one God. It is Europeans who,
but then with different faces, different bodies, and so on and so forth, right?
Which are just aspects of the one God. It is European understanding of Hinduism that people believe that they have multiple gods, but they don't have multiple gods.
Anyway,
But continue.
Too, right? As an Abrahamic faith, it happens to just look like like polytheism.
I mean, Abrahamic faith is polytheistic. The Abrahamic says that other gods exist. Shamash exists. All these other gods exist as well. So Dagon exists.
Only one is worth worshiping, right?
But the existence of the other gods would incite polytheism. You may not worship those gods, but there is the belief in those gods' existence, which is polytheism. Whether you worship the other gods or not has nothing to do with polytheism. The belief that they exist.
And that's also why we define ourselves as strict monotheists, right? Because people can have a different concept, right? Somebody can say that, Thor exists, right? But that exists as a concept, right?
But
if you're talking about the creator of the universe, it's only one. That's our belief. That's our hard belief.
But to go back to
the same thing,
but to go back to what?
Say the same thing about it.
Now hold on, let's go because we already way off my original subject. So let's not keep going off. But to go back to what Happy Africa was saying though is, regardless of the theism, the poly or mono, a Hindu person and a Muslim, you're saying that in your understanding, your description that you was giving, your example, that Hindu is less moral than an Islamic person, and that's a possibility. But that possibility is not based on religion. That possibility is based on the culture that they grow up in, the family they grew up in.
No, because I can distinguish between moral actions, right? Like let's say, for example, helping somebody when they're starving, right? That is a moral action regardless of whoever does it, right? But then if you're making like spiritual claims, right? Because to us as Muslims, right? Like it is immoral and like anti-reality to say, that there's multiple gods, right? Or to make idols or to make images. Right?
I'm not understanding you.
We see that as immoral.
That's only because you say so.
You're telling us, first you're telling us that somebody can help somebody who is in need. You understand? That's the part. Yeah, and there I'm with you. But where are we fixing now the God idea where now it becomes immoral to worship this God and immoral to worship the other God? I'm catching up.
Okay, you know how identity theft is a crime and it's immoral, right? Like if somebody took your picture and then started like messing with it and then claimed something else, that this person did X, he stole from me, right?
I honestly, I'm not getting you. Maybe if my brother is getting you, but still, the question belongs to
if your morality comes from Islam and the Quran, yeah, and to you this is the biggest source, yeah, not the community. And on the other hand, a Hindu person solemnly collect his morality from the society,
yeah, the Gita, society, and so on.
Yeah. So what puts you in a better position than him?
No, look, it's my belief, right? This is like what I believe, that Islam has the right formula in terms of like what God wants, right? And then some people have gone astray from that, but sometimes they also happen to do good things.
Yeah, if it's your belief, then it becomes difficult for me to take an opposing position here.
But this is a faith, this is a matter of faith for me.
Yeah. If it's your belief, then it does not make it right. It's just your belief. So I really can't tolerate that.
Look, if let's say, for example, you're one of those people who believes in materialism and like you've already subtracted spirituality and God from the thing, there's no way I can convince you, right? If you've already taken God and like spirituality off the table.
But let me ask you a question though, and this is going to sound like I'm being a smart ass, but I'm really not trying to be a smart ass. Okay.
Sure.
Your foundation for your morality is the Quran, but that foundation is based on your belief, right? So as you stated earlier, or was getting into the statement of, if a person have idols or worships another God, then based on your belief, that person is committing an immoral act. But belief,
it's like fraud.
But belief within itself is not based on facts, which when you earlier said that y'all followed like the 10 Commandments, which one is to not bear false witness. Your belief that they are worshiping false idols is not based on facts. It's based purely on belief, because you cannot prove the existence of your God nor the existence of their God or gods. So is that not bearing false witness, because you're basing it on something that it cannot be proven?
Yeah, we can only operate from what we know to be true.
That's why I think if you introduce your belief card, then it becomes difficult for us to engage. It remains your belief and it's not factual.
Wait, Happy. He said you started out saying something about being true. Say that.
Yeah, like let's say for example, I hold one truth to be self-evident, right? Like I look up into the sky and then for some reason I say, okay, the sky is actually brown, right? That is a self-evident truth to me, right? But then that is true because I'm colorblind, for example, right?
Okay, but see, so you have
to me that's the truth of my eyes.
That is the truth of your eyes, because you have evidence that would back up that truth. But in this instance, there is no evidence to back up your truth. It is only a truth to you based on beliefs, which has no facts. So you can't claim. So making the claim that someone else is less moral because they worship a different deity, based solely on your truth, your belief rather, that is false witnessing towards that person, because you cannot demonstrate with any type of evidence your claim.
Sure, and also, right, if I'm wrong, right, I'll find out in the end, right, or not, right.
I mean, that is the wager. It's not Pascal's wager.
That's a wager we're taking.
Yeah, and which is an interesting wager, because Pascal's wager only works if you're doing it against someone who doesn't believe any gods exist. But if you're wrong,
I mean, some people have expanded that and said, there's like 1,000 gods or so on and so forth, right?
Yeah. So if you're wrong, but the Buddhist is right, or the Hindu is right, or the Christian is right, or the Jew is right, or the Wiccan is right, or the, what I'm saying, on and on and on, then you lose.
Yeah, and then I'll be in trouble. But then I hope, right, that God, whoever like is merciful, right? I don't claim to know God's mind or nature, right? But it's my earnest hope that he's merciful.
Yeah. That's the best answer that you could give. That if you're wrong, you just hope that whoever it is can understand, hey man, I grew up in this environment. This is what my parents taught me, or this is what my culture taught me. So I did good shit most of my life. And they give you a pass.
That's all I can do. All I can do is hope, pray, and then do the right thing.
Don't you think that even secular humanists like atheists are also within that bracket of explanation, where they're just doing good things, they're being moral, and if at all that any of these things exist somewhere else in an afterlife, they will also receive the same mercy?
Yeah, like there are narrations and theological discussions on this exact topic, right? In like all the Abrahamic faiths, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if God is truly merciful, and he's capable of anything, so I can't tell you that he won't also be there, stand there for the atheists, the non-believers, so on and so forth, right? But then I have taken it upon myself, right, to hold this belief, right, and follow these principles, to improve my life, right?
But let me ask you a question though. I'm gonna go back to a little bit here. So you admit that if you're wrong, you hope that whatever God, if there is a God that is there, that it is benevolent and enough to say that, hey, you didn't believe in the right version of me. But do you consider But do you
I call out to God and say, the most merciful, the most gracious, right? That's how I start every single prayer.
Okay.
Right. So how Muslims start prayers.
I know my pausing sounds like I'm finished, but I'm not. But I understand what you're saying.
That's right.
So, but here's the thing. But then would it not be reasonable for that God, if it exists, that for that God who is different from the one you worship, still looks at you and say, but yet I understand you did good stuff in your life, but you thought the right version of me was a version that condoned slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't think that would be a blemish? The fact that you would follow a version of a God that condones slavery? Because we're going to get back to the subject matter. So do you not see that as being a blemish, and you not saying
that could be it could be a blemish.
Your own personal, do you think slavery is okay?
No.
All right. So how can you follow any book that describes a God as condoning any version of slavery?
Because I believe in a God who is merciful to human beings, even if they do wrong, right? Even if they do bad things, right? There will be I don't know. Okay, I'm going to be speaking out of the Quran here. There will be people who are did terrible things on earth, right? But then they gained repentance at some point, right? And then they will make it into God's grace, right? Into paradise, right? So I believe that people can be redeemed even if they did bad things.
Okay, but if you continue your whole life believing in a God that condones slavery, you never repented for that. You may not have performed the act yourself, but you supported a version of God that condones the slavery. So if I'm that God, I'm gonna look at you a little side-eyed, that I don't think I want you up here, in my realm, because you were willing to forego your own sense of morality, that spirit in you, whatever you call it, your discernment. You would willing to just ignore the fact that this version of me condones slavery, and still stuck with it, even though you know it goes against your own sensibilities. So maybe you're not the right type of person, because you might start some problems up in here. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we have to be of a mindset that if we are now more moral than the books that was written during a time frame where that morality was fine, then we need to leave that entire mindset behind and move into a new mindset that says that, you know what, we don't need any God belief that says slavery is okay. We need one we need a version, an identity of God that does not have slavery, that does not have the oppression of women, that does not have genocide. All that Old Testament God genociding people and stuff, we need to leave that alone. Sacrificing animals, just throw the whole thing away and start over. So
yeah,
but, so how can you stay with it?
Beings, right? In terms of, like, you've said that we as a society have progressed, like we've reached a point where, such is seen like as bad, or, it's completely morally reprehensible, right?
Mm-hmm.
To, let's say, have slaves and so on. But then again, sometimes I also think, like, what if in 100 years, right, people condemn me for eating meat, because the vast majority of people then will become vegan. So the thing that, like, let's say the faith will be condemned for is that how could you support a God who allowed people to slaughter animals and eat meat, right?
Yeah, I mean, because you have that. You had a guy that told you what you can eat and what you can't eat.
Mm-hmm.
And people have based their religious life and their dietary life on that issue alone. Now,
of course,
the thing about it is, the argument against that one would be, there is just in nature, there is a cycle of life. There is something has to die in order for you to survive. So even though we may look at eating meat as something with a face and that produces babies, when you cut the vegetable off the root, off the branch, you're killing the vegetable. You're killing the apple when you cut it off the tree. So you're still ending life, because does not an apple die once it falls off the tree?
Yeah. And that's the point I wanted to bring up with this, was that if, let's say, in 100 years, like, the scope of morality changes to a point where, like,
I understand,
everybody's against eating meat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Muslims could still exist, right? We don't have to eat meat, right? In fact, all vegetables are halal, right? They're kosher, right?
Yeah, but you killed them.
Yeah. So if we reach that point, right, the Muslims in that time period, maybe they'll say, you know what? These people lived according to their ways. They did a bad thing, right? But God is still merciful, right? That even these people who, ate meat, right, they have a chance at redemption, right? Because while us as Muslims, we don't have original sin as a doctrine, right? We accept that human beings have, like, the ability to sin, the ability to do wrong, right? And this is where God comes in to, like, give us mercy.
Well, that's why most morality is very subjective, and that's going to be a continuous thing for the eternity of man's existence. But there's a huge difference between eating meat and enslaving someone. That's a very big difference. You're talking about eating.
I completely agree.
Eating is a necessity. But slaving someone, that's not a necessity. You got to eat something, right? Whether you choose to be vegetarian or not, you got to eat something. But you enslaving someone and taking away their agency, that right there, that's not a question of it was okay at any time frame.
I think the equivalence of that would be if you are engaging eating human meat, and if it were to be legalized in future, that would at least create an engagement. But if vegetables are also unalived, the same way plants are unalive, I don't think that that is going to be associated with this. Plus, we're speaking about morality here. We're not speaking about survival. So morality and survival are two different things.
Right. And that's the thing. Yeah. So that's not a good.
Yeah, because like as much as I disagree with them and I find them completely abhorrent, right? Like if you go back in time and then you look at these kings, these rulers, right, and the justifications they told themselves why they're doing what they're doing, right? Whether it's like wiping out entire nations, enslaving them and so on and so forth. They see it as like an economic necessity that they need to do these things. Like, why is Ramesses doing these things? It's like, we need more workers to do this and that, right? We need to build this temple or Osiris will do this to us.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And have not people done those things in every religion?
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, when the Arab nation conquered North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula, it was the same thing. When they conquered Judea, it was the same thing. So it's no difference. They all have conquered and enslaved in order to push their empires, both economically and then utilize religion in order to push the empire even more, to control the empire. So, I mean, it works both ways.
Yeah, because I can say that, a lot of things that were done during the conquest are completely abhorrent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in part, I'll also say that Islam has like a small remedy in there that, you should emancipate people whenever you can, right? This is literally, it's one of the great acts of charity, and like with feeding people and so on and so forth.
And I've always said that if you gotta have slavery, at least Islam does try to emancipate the slave, but I still find the fault in the fact that it's okay to have the slave. So just having the slave, period, is problematic. And so that in itself wipes it away clean. To add some flavor, let me bring this other guy up on Facebook. I usually don't want to talk to this guy, but I'm gonna bring him up anyway, just for shits and giggles.
Prime. Hey, what's up, my brother?
Everything's good.
Hello to your audience and to your lovely wife. I always give you greetings, and to the rest of the hosts. The rest of the guests that you have.
Yeah, usually I don't do multiple. I usually stop doing multiple guests, but we in it today.
No, that's okay. I realize you're the referee today. You're not in the chat, so and you notice the topic we have had before. I'll wait my turn, so you don't feel I'm interrupting. So I'll let your other guests, and then I'll get when my turn come around. Is that okay?
Okay. So, do you believe the Bible condones transatlantic slave trade or slavery? Period.
The way you phrase the question, that's where the straw man is. So the question is, to me, based on what you wrote, is if the Bible condones slavery. I would say yes.
So how is that
in terms of the transatlantic slavery?
Mm-hmm.
I would say no, it's not the same treatment. And I'll make one other caveat to the Muslim brother.
Wait. Before we move forward, What is the type of slavery that the Bible condones?
Hold 1 sec. I forgot to put on my earpiece. Hold 1 sec.
Deconstruct. I need to go.
Oh, Remy, I appreciate you being here, man.
Okay, I got my earpiece on. My bad. Right. Repeat your question for me.
What is the type of slavery that the Bible condones?
Right. Firstly,
let me be more clear, because you can go all over the map on that one. Mm-hmm. Does the Bible condone chattel slavery?
Yeah, slavery, the one where you pass from one generation to the other.
Yeah, that's chattel slavery.
Only correct. For I never shied away from that. I said that the last time when we were up here. Right. So I said that on the basis of what the Bible speaks about, right, and what we have read into it and what we have seen, is that people who were bought, right, or who people were assimilated based on captivity by war, right? Is that they were assimilated into the families of the Israelites. So meaning that when you bought a slave, it is essentially you were buying someone into your family for life.
No, you own them as property. It doesn't say anything about them being family. Leviticus 25, 44 through 46 does not say anything about them becoming family. It says they are owned as property and they're passed down as property.
Right. So here's what I'm saying. Before God met Abraham, right? Abraham had slaves. So before Abraham became the patriarch of the Jewish religion, Abraham had slaves.
Where do you get that?
Oh, we can go to the Bible.
Now, where in the Bible does it say that Abraham had slaves before he was called out by God, by this God?
We go to, let's go to Genesis chapter. We got 2 verses. Genesis chapter 17. Let's go to there. Let me just make sure I got the correct reference here. Let me just make sure I got it.
Okay, yeah, just where in 17?
Oh, no, sorry, 15, my bad, 15. So 15 verse 2 says, right? It says, well, I can read the intro really quick. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, fear not, Abraham, I am thy shield and thy exceedingly great reward. And Abraham said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house, this is Eliezer of Damascus. So essentially, he had no children. But in Abraham's culture and in his mind, that the next person who would inherit his property and all of his wealth is Eliezer of Damascus. You want some more? You want further reference?
Okay, so the slave inheriting is only because he doesn't have any children.
Right. So in essence, I'm saying that before God met him,
that's not the statement you made.
No, here was the statement I made, and here's what you asked me to provide the proof on. Did Abraham own slaves before he was called?
Where did it say that?
I'm saying that the chief slave of Abraham's household was Eliezer of Damascus, because he says he is childless, and the person who is in line is Eliezer of Damascus. If you want further evidence, right? Now let's go to chapter 14 and verse 14. Really easy.
Hold on. Now, it doesn't necessarily say slave. So I'm going back. You said when Abraham was first called out. Abraham was first called out. That was actually in chapter 12. And he was told,
no problem. No problem. I got you. No problem.
So
I'm saying,
hold on.
I'm saying,
it says that Abraham was told to leave with all of his with his wife.
Okay. And son, what? And what?
Huh?
And what?
His
servant, right?
If you don't stop.
Go ahead.
It doesn't specify any servants, right? So it says, now the Lord said to Abraham, go from your country and your kindred and your house and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who curse you, I will curse them. By you all the families of the earth will be blessed. So Abraham went as the Lord told him, and Lot went with him. Abraham was 75 years old when he departed from Haran, and Abraham, Sarah, his wife, Lot, his brother's son, and all their possessions which they had gathered. And if you don't stop, and the person.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Stop with the unhumming.
Right, this part. That's the part. And
the persons that they had gotten in Haran.
Okay,
And they
okay. What
said
does that?
the land.
What does that? What does that mean?
Now the persons, now I can see how the persons that they had gotten in Haran could be slaves. So it could be slaves.
Okay, all right, could be. All right. But let's
No.
confirm it then. Let's confirm it.
Well, no, I'm good. I will grant you that Abraham had some slaves before he left. So
But
that's
I want to confirm it. Could we go to
It's
14:14?
confirmed. It's confirmed. He had some slaves. But
Okay.
what does that have to do? So chattel slavery was okay. That's the point that we're talking about. You this making them as your family, the treatments don't matter.
So why would go ahead,
question is,
finish up. Mm-hmm.
Chattel slavery is okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was the transatlantic slave trade chattel slavery?
Yes.
Then it's condoned. The transatlantic trade is
what was my difference? What was my difference?
This is why I said treatment don't matter.
It matters.
Let me ask you, so
remember, we differentiating between the treatment and the transaction.
Are you property of another person that can be passed down to the inheritance?
Yeah, I'm a property of God.
No. No. You're for one, you're not.
You don't own no one, coach?
If you are, if I owned you as a slave,
right,
and I am able to pass you down to my son, you are a chattel slave, right?
Correct. That's the transaction, right? We're not talking about the treatment.
Because treatment don't matter.
No,
because how I treat you doesn't matter to the fact that you don't have agency of living your own life.
Right. But could we confirm the word chattel means the transfer? That's what it means. It's not talking about treatment. Could we agree on that?
Yeah, it's not talking about
Good.
treatment. You keep bringing up treatment.
So no, because most people, when they hear the word chattel, they think that it's referring to the treatment in the Atlantic. And I'm saying that's where the straw man is in the argument. Could we just confirm?
It's not a straw man. I asked a very direct, simple question. I'm not talking about how other people, I'm talking about what I said. Chattel slavery is condoned in the Bible. Chattel slavery is the type of slavery that happened in the transatlantic.
No, not type. It's the transaction.
Was it not a transaction of you own somebody and can pass them down for generations?
Good. That's what we're agreeing on. No problem.
So the transatlantic slave trade is condoned by the Bible.
Yeah, that's the same process by which was used in the Bible.
Then there is no argument. The Bible condoned the transatlantic slave trade.
No, I'm saying no. The transaction is one thing, the treatment is the other. Because in biblical slavery, Abraham, who's the forefather of the Israelites' religion, when he first is having conversations with God, right? He said, listen, I go childless, and the person who is going to own my resources is my chief, Eliezer. There are some 200 and I think 30 other men that was bought or born in his household.
So why was Eliezer going to receive his stuff? What's the context, as y'all like to say, of that conversation?
Right. So it's the context of this.
Right, because when you write, you just get away from what I said.
Let me finish. So remember when you read in chapter 12, he had his nephew with him, right? Right, good. Now in his conversation with God, right, he's telling God, hey, the person whom I esteem to collect my resources is the slave, although he had his nephew with him, Lot, right? So I'm saying, if in the context, and even though, and I point, this is what I point out also, the promise that God gave to Abraham was not so much through his son Isaac and their generation, but it was to also the entire household of slaves of Abraham.
So one, in the context of the conversation in, what is that? Chapter 15. Abraham is saying, hey, look, if you give me all this stuff, the only person I can give it to is this slave.
No, he was asking God for
and then the God says, nah, bro, you ain't giving nothing to this slave. is going to your son.
No, well, that's the point. In his mind, since he went childless and God is now approaching him, he said, well, what will you give me? Because if I don't have anything to inherit, to pass on, the next person's going to pass it on to is the slave.
Because that's the cultural norm for that era of time.
And that has been the same.
And Abraham was in distress because he's saying that I'm gonna have to give all my good shit to this slave. All that stuff when I pimped out Sarah in Egypt, when I pimped her out in
come on, you're making side shots. No, go ahead.
I'm gonna have to give all my shit to this slave. And this God is saying, no, he shall not be your heir. Your own son shall be your heir. Right?
Correct.
So
I'm saying, what then is the understanding in Abraham's mind of whom his inheritance would next be passed on to?
Okay, it'll be going to his slave, but
okay, cool. Although he had his nephew with him, right?
That has nothing to do with chattel slavery being condoned in the Bible and chattel slavery being condoned in the transatlantic slave trade.
Right. So here's where we differ on. As I continue to say, the process is by treatment.
And here's the thing where we differ on. You're picking one little thing.
You're picking the same one little thing.
So since we're going to do this treatment thing, which, as I will state, treatment don't matter.
It matters.
Could you beat your slaves in the Bible? Is it condoned to beat your slaves?
Yes, it is.
How severely can you beat your slave?
It gives an example, and it says that if they die, then you're going to have repercussions. But it says that you can beat them. Well, let me answer. It says, let me repeat what I said.
Go ahead.
This is what I said. I said that you can punish your slave, right? There were certain criteria. One, you couldn't punish the slave if you made them die. There were repercussions, right? That's what I said. Two.
Okay. But wait, don't go to two. Don't go to two yet. Let's deal with
no,
one.
It's on the same point. And I just outlined in the others. I think if you injured an eye or a tooth or something like that, then they were free to go.
That's a Hebrew slave, not a chattel slave.
What? It's the same one.
Nope. That's a Hebrew slave that is under indentured servitude. That's not a chattel slave.
You asked me if I punish a slave.
There's different rules.
Well, okay, if we want to go different rules, fine.
Is not a slave.
They still slave.
No,
it's the same word used in the Bible.
No, it's not. It's two different words. The servitude word is.
Show me a word. Show me the word for the male servant or the male slave if it's not the same word.
It's Sair. And
no, it's not. It's Ebed.
Ebed is the slave, is the chattel slave.
And it's the same word used throughout for servant.
No, it's not. But
you wanna prove me wrong?
First, this is why I wanted to stop at point one, because your point one was incorrect. Right.
My point one was incorrect. That if they had beaten the slave to death, that there weren't repercussions. That's what I said.
Right. That's wrong. You're leaving out a very important detail.
No, it says if they beat the person to death.
It says that if you beat the slave and he does not die for a couple of days, 2 days, he doesn't die.
Right.
Then the master is not punished. But if he were to die after the 2 days, the master's still not punished. So the beating to death has to come where the person dies within 1 to 2 days.
Right. It doesn't matter if you die 1 day, 2 days. Once the person died, there were repercussions.
No, there's not. There's not the repercussions.
So what you're saying, if they die on the 4th day, then there was no repercussions?
Yes, that's exactly what the Bible is saying.
Okay, let's be technical with it. I got no problem. I just hope that when I be technical, you accept it. Is that okay?
No, that's what it says. I'm going on what the damn thing says.
Listen, I'm not disputing whether or not what you said is incorrect. I didn't dispute that. I said
hold on. So
we're being technical.
But hold on, we're dealing with something. So in American slavery, in the chattel slavery of the transatlantic slave trade, could you beat your slave?
There's no accountability.
Could you beat?
No, I'm saying there's no accountability in the transatlantic slave.
Could you beat?
Who are you accountable to?
But could you beat?
No, I'm saying that's not. In one sphere, there is a law. In the transatlantic slavery, was there a law, right, that prohibited any of the slave masters to beat, ill-treat, or kill their slaves? No, there wasn't. There was no law.
Is there?
Am I incorrect or not?
You're correct on that part.
Okay, well, all right. So I'm saying the treatment is different.
But
is the treatment different?
But what about the same of beating? The question I asked though was, can you beat your slaves? How severely and how severely can you beat your slave? That's what I asked.
You didn't ask how severe. All you asked me is if you can beat your slave. I said yes. I said if you beat the slave to death, that there were repercussions. That's my exact statement.
But needless, whether there are repercussions or not, the God of the Bible condones the beating of slaves.
And I'm saying there were rules and regulations. Were there rules and regulations in the transatlantic slavery?
But there are
yes or no?
There are no rules.
Okay.
For the beating. You can beat the slave.
Was there any rules at all? So you see how the treatment is different, right? There's no law. There's no law that prohibits you from killing your slave in the transatlantic. If you didn't like him, you could have just killed him. Nail him to the cross, send him to the dogs, anything you could have done. Doesn't matter. There's no law.
The fact that you can beat your slave, that you can tell a person, a grown-ass man, stand against this post, and I'm gonna whip the shit out of you.
And
whether there are rules of if they die or not after a few days is inconsequential to me.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I got one question, one quick question.
You're beating the living shit out of somebody.
All right, so let me ask you one question. Your American penal system that does the same thing, you tell me, is that right, wrong, incorrect, moral, immoral? Because I'm sure the prison officers can line a man up, put him against the wall, and beat the shit out of him.
No, that is actually illegal.
And I'm sure they can beat him within a whisker of death, and nobody's gonna be liable for it.
That is illegal.
Do they beat prisoners and slaves in the penitentiary?
There are prison guards and police officers who are in jail because they beat the shit out of somebody without cause, without justification. So yes, that is illegal. That's on the book.
So is the penal correctional system in America moral or immoral? Since it is, they can own an inmate and they will pass him down until death do us part. Or put him in the gas, or put him in the electric chair, or the gas. But most prisoners no gas chambers.
Most prisoners in the United States have a time limit on how long they're going to be in prison.
Yeah, for life. Some of them.
No,
some of them got concurrent. Like depends on the state.
What part are you not listening to? Most prisoners, have a time limit, a sentence that does not go to they don't have life sentence. Most prisoners don't have life sentences. So you can stop with that part. So the prison, although prison have similarities to slavery, prison is not slavery in the same.
My question was, is it moral or immoral?
What, to be in prison?
Yeah.
No, it's moral. Ain't no wrong putting people in prison. If you violate the common law that we have agreed upon, then your ass needs to go to prison. There ain't nothing wrong with putting people in prison. If you're a danger to society, go to prison. But I'm sitting over here.
So what you saying? So let me understand. So what you saying in the Bible? Wait, I'm coming back. What you saying is that in the Bible, the Israeli slave master, and I'm saying most of these laws were enactments before they even got to the promised land, right? None of these things weren't even in existence, even in the book. All of these laws was for when they reach, but most people quote them. I got no problem dealing with it. But here's my point. You think that the Israeli would just look at the slave and say, man, I feel like beating you up today for nothing?
What does that happen?
You think that's what happens?
It depends on the slave master.
If the slave master know that, if the slave master,
the mind of people who've been dead for thousands of years.
No, but I'm saying let's be logical, right? And I'll be logical both in the Atlantic and both in the heat.
Let's be logical. Slaves have been beaten for spilling a cup.
Okay,
Slaves have been beaten for being late. Slaves have been beaten for looking at their master or speaking out of turn.
That's
Slaves
what,
can
right.
be
That's
beaten
what
for
Hollywood has
mention.
purported, right? But here's what I'm saying.
You're
Didn't the
gonna-
masters know that the slave was his money, meaning that that's his investment? So if it
Mhm.
is, I beat the slave and kill them out, I paid for them, right?
Which is why,
It
which is
wouldn't be
why most,
productive.
which is why slaves in America weren't beaten to death on wholesale, because they were an investment of money. So slave masters weren't beating to death and sticking the dogs on the regular average little slave. Now you run away, you try to run away, you try to kill a white person, or you steal something. Yeah, they might punish you harsher then. And if you run away, they might kill you in order to strike fear in the other 200 slaves that they have. But they weren't just walking around killing all the damn slaves like you're trying to suggest here.
But that's what I'm saying.
But
You think that Israeli, so you think that the children of Israel did that?
The Bible can, huh?
No, but I'm asking, if it is, that's the logical explanation in the transatlantic. Do you think that the Israeli generations, that they did the same, that they did the opposite? They just like, let me just watch these people and beat them for no reason, although they were slaves just 40 years
For
before.
whatever
In
justification,
fact, not even 40 years, 40 days
for
before.
whatever justification throughout time immemorial that slave masters have beaten slaves, those same rationales have been in existence. You'll be able to find slave masters who didn't beat their slaves severely for every little thing. You'll find those who did. It's just something that people have done, because slavery is a people thing. But your Bible is condoning the beating of slaves. Your Bible is condoning chattel slavery in itself, which is the same shit that happened in the transatlantic slave trade.
Right. Does it condone the treatment? That's what I'm getting at.
It doesn't matter, because that's not the topic.
No, because you don't want to answer the question.
I've answered your question. There are some differences in the transatlantic slave trade as far as treatment, which is why I said treatment is not even part of it. The question is, is the core principle of the transatlantic slave trade condoned in the Bible, which is the condoning of chattel?
No, that's not the core principle. I'm just saying that the chattel transaction.
At the core of it, it is
no
the person as property and pass. The transatlantic slave trade at its core is owning another person as property and being able to transfer them down from generation to generation. The treatment.
So you're saying that's the core. That's the core.
The treatment of slavery, which is
you're saying that's the core value in slavery. That was the core. I thought the core value was that you bought people for labor to do a physical production of raw material. That's what's the core process for slavery was.
That was the usage of slavery. The core.
But that's the main reason they brought slaves to the West Indies and America.
Slavery? Was it chattel slavery? It's very.
And I'm saying the chattel process of it was based on the masters and their children inheriting the same business and carrying on the same business for generations until it ended.
This is the reason why treatment don't matter, is because you can find different treatments within the transatlantic slave trade. For instance, in the Brazilian slavery, if the master had a son by a slave woman, then that son would then be part of the inheritance of the father. That wasn't something that happened in North America, but that's something that happened in Brazil. So we can find different levels of treatment between slavery all throughout the transatlantic, and as well as the different treatments that you have within the Bible that it condones and that it doesn't condone. But the point is, the basis of transatlantic slave trade was chattel slavery, which is what's condoned in the Bible.
All right, so let me just give. Can I get
about treatment?
Oh, okay. No, that's not. I just want to show you an example in the Bible that most people tend to not be cognizant of, right? So I want to talk about, and just give me like 30 seconds. I'll be quick, right? So in the book of Joshua, right? When Joshua and them, they move into the promised land and they conquer Ai and they conquer Ai and what's the name of the walled city again? Jericho, right? The Gibeonites, right? Who was a couple of cities together, right? Like a nation. they got wind of Joshua, and you know what they did? They tricked Joshua, and they said, no, we're gonna do, we're gonna go and tell these people that we fear their God because we heard about what their God did in Egypt, and we will tell them that we will be their slaves, right? Long story short, that's what they did. So it's when Joshua moved to the city now to go conquer it, he like, wait, you guys, people tricked me, right? They're like, yeah, we already know that yours gonna win, so we don't want to die. So we prefer, right, to give ourselves to you, right, as slaves. And Joshua said, okay, you all are gonna be our slaves forever. So all of the cities of Gibeon were actually slave cities. Entire, right, civilization, our entire civilization became the slaves of the Hebrew Israelites. Now, do you think that they just went in, took them up, beat them, and do? No, they actually lived in
There
their.
you go. I said I'm done with treatment. That ain't got
I
shit
know,
to
but
do
no,
with
but I'm just showing you. I'm just showing
No,
you.
you ain't showing shit. That ain't got nothing to do
I'm
with treatment.
showing you from
You're
the Bible an
dishonest. You
example.
always demonstrate. I give you an
Is it from
opportunity.
the
Shut
scripture?
up talking.
Come
Shut up.
on, you
No, shut the fuck
manifested
up.
now, coach. Come on, you manifest.
I give you an opportunity to stop being disingenuous. I said that I'm done with treatment. Treatment ain't got shit to do with the conversation.
I'm showing you people who gave themselves into slavery.
Do not unmute yourself until I unmute you.
No, come on, man.
Dude, you do that shit one more time. I'm done.
You're running. Come on. Why are you scared?
Y'all gonna learn. This is my channel. This is my channel. You're gonna learn that there is a level of respect that a person is gonna have.
He's moving all over the place. He's moving all over the place. He cannot pin down one idea, exhaust that idea, then move to the next one. Because I tell you, I have trouble with these guys. I have a lot of trouble with these guys, man. I tell you.
That just throws, and I'm with you. I have it. Just if I give the parameters for the discussion. You want to go way outside. I gave you a little bit of leeway, but then I said I'm done with the whole treatment thing because treatment ain't got nothing to do with it, right? The fact of the matter is that the Bible condones child slavery, right? Once you, and that in itself is enough. Now, there are some variations in treatment, but at the end of the day, treatment don't matter because the main treatment here is the fact that you have taken away the agency of life of another person. I can't choose where I want to live. I can't choose what kind of work I want to do, what time I get up, what time I go to sleep, what I get to eat, what I get to wear. I can't choose a wife or children. I can't choose whether or not my kids get to be with me because you own me as property. And that is chattel slavery that was in the Bible, and that is the chattel slavery of the transatlantic slave trade. And this God condones it. And I know, what's the young lady? I always never remember her name on here. But she asked me am I saying condoning or allow, which is another way that Bible believers try to justify it. Because they said, well, God allowed them to do this because they were already doing it. Well, they were already wearing mixed linen. So why did this God, he just should have allowed them to do that, right? They were already doing things that this God in their society, and this guy just say, nope, we're going to change that. Don't boil a baby calf in the mother's milk. Change it. Not going to do it. They were already doing some stealing, but he changed that. So when this God makes a decree about something, he is not condoning. He is not allowing. He has the ability to just say, this is over. Stop doing this. That's over. Don't worship any other gods aside from me. Don't worship no other gods. He didn't have to allow them to go through a process to grow and mature into not worshiping other gods. He said, this is the rule. So in Leviticus 25, he's saying this is the rule, chattel slavery. So he is condoning it. That's the difference between condoning and allowing. That there is no allowance with this God. It is, these are my rules, follow my rules, or I'm gonna kick your ass, basically. So the treatment don't matter. And I don't, and this is why I stopped letting Primer get up here. At first, he started out like he was gonna be legit, but then you go off the rails with the bullshit. You know, trying to move, like you said in your comments, trying to move the goalpost. It doesn't matter how you treat it. It doesn't matter that these Gibeonites say that, oh, we want to be your slaves. We're good. We don't want to lose or die. What does that matter? The fact of chattel slavery is condoned. In Joshua, when the Danites can't kill all the people, they're supposed to genocide all the people, then Joshua tells them, hey, make them your slaves. And then he tells all the tribes of Israel, for the nations, genocide everybody from the land that you're inheriting, but then for the nations next to you, make them your slaves. The Bible is condoning chattel slavery, pure and simple. There's no other ways around it. So if somebody would, let me see, there's somebody waiting on TikTok. Hold on.
You know, for religious people, it's not about what is right. It's about what God says. For them, right cannot be right. For them, whatever God says, what is right. You understand what I mean there?
Yeah.
So yeah. And what they do on the other hand, if the whole society agrees that whatever God said is wrong, then they change and they start putting on cognitive dissonance. You understand?
Yeah, and that's what happens with this black man in the Caribbean trying to justify slavery. What is this? Blame metal? Blame? I can't see it.
Like metallic.
Oh, black metallic.
Yeah, black metallic.
Are you over 20? Oh, you're over 18, sorry?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Are you looking for opposition, or you just looking for how you doing, though?
Pretty good. I mean, make your statement. We'll see where it goes.
No, I'm just saying that, you know what I'm saying, it looks always sad, you know what I'm saying, when we had these kind of conversations, you know what I'm saying, about that book, and the obvious treatment, you know what I'm saying, that book instilled, and the justifications that people try to come up with, to try to make it okay.
Yeah.
I just think it's sad. I just think it's sad.
It's truly sad that, especially when you got people of color whose ancestors went through this bullshit,
exactly,
and they don't want to let go of this Bible so badly that they will try to justify this slavery and say that, oh, well, that was different. That was them taking God's word out of context and misusing it and so on and so forth so that they can maintain their allegiance to this. So it is sad.
What do you think causes that? What do you think causes that?
What causes that? Their fear of,
what do you think causes that?
well, one, the indoctrination that they went through of believing in this, and then their emotional and mental attachment to trying to avoid hell and thinking that they're going to go to this heaven. And then, yeah, and then there's the other fear of disconnection from all the people around them or the overwhelming majority of society that they live in that agrees with this, and they don't want to be alone in that. So they will fight you tooth and nail to maintain it because, hey, I want to be part of the group. I'm a sheep. And I'm going to go where the sheep go, even though we're going to the slaughter. Are you in a barbershop?
Sorry about that, bro.
You in a barbershop? Black men will say, I'm going to cut hair and get on this and talk about this. They sound like you're in a barbershop.
I bet that's what it is. But for me, it sounds like a tattoo machine.
Oh, a tattoo machine. Yeah, that could be.
Well, are you the buzzing?
Oh, yeah. The buzzing, the television, all that.
All the things that go with it.
All that noise.
I follow you on Facebook. I met you. Yeah, I followed you on Facebook at first, man. It's good to see you on TikTok, man.
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah, I swore off TikTok for a while until they changed their parameters.
Yeah.
So you're in a barbershop or a tattoo shop?
Okay. Yeah, I'm in a barbershop.
Okay, I win. You lost, Happy.
All right, hey, say, man. Keep up the good work.
All right, appreciate you. Blame that black.
Correct way. Where he was using it at. You know, no, it's not a barber shop, and they are shaving the hair. We got that wrong.
Yeah.
They're not shaving the other side.
I should have bet you. I should have bet you where he was at.
but still, I just want you to know that there's a difficulty in trying to emancipate somebody from mental slavery.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difficulty. You know, out of all things, I think it's very difficult to take somebody out of indoctrination. It's very difficult, and you've just mentioned the reasons why they feel like they should not get out of it. The fear of hell, the emotional attachment, and so on and so forth. It makes people so difficult that they cannot apply simple logic that they would apply in other areas of life in their religion. They cannot do that. It is excessively simple, but they will never do that. You ask them this simple question. You ask that question from their lives. They will give you the accurate answer.
Yeah.
Change that same question. Put it on religion. Yeah. Ask it in a similar way. Yeah. They start fumbling. They are all over the place. They are putting on cognitive dissonance. So it's very difficult to emancipate these guys.
It is. It is incredible. Miss Fifi, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. What about you?
Doing outstanding.
All right. What are we talking about today? Because I just joined. I know you were talking to the guy at the barbershop. We're talking about deconstructing the Bible or the Quran, or what are we talking about? We're talking about, does the Bible condone the, oh gosh, well, the King James does. I don't know about other Bibles.
They are.
Because I went to this park in Orlando. It's connected to TBN. I don't know if you're familiar with TBN. It's a.
Mm-hmm. I remember. I remember it.
Okay, so we went there, and one of the exhibitions was where did the Bible come from? When was it first printed? They have it in different languages, and how the Germans turned it into English, and how when King James wanted to marry someone else, he took some scholars and said, okay, write the Bible according to these guidelines. Mm-hmm. Because he wanted, his wife was from Spain, and I think she was Catholic. And in the Catholic religion, you can't get a divorce, and you know what that's all about.
You're mixing Henry VIII and King James a little bit there. It was Henry VIII. Okay. It was Henry VIII, I believe, that he wanted to get a divorce, but the Pope wouldn't let him get a divorce. So he then separated and created the Church of England. Then Mary came back and she killed everybody and made him go back to Catholicism. Then James was like, I want control. James' real reason for doing it is control and creating of the Anglican Church. So his thing was control. So that part was a little mixture, but it was that he had the 54 scribes. He gave them like 16 rules that they had to follow in their reconstruction of the Bible. So yeah. Mm-hmm. And but you said the King James version condones slavery, but pretty much every version of the Bible condones the same type of slavery that of the transatlantic slave trade. Because they're all going to translate. Go ahead.
Including the trans-American slave.
Including the what?
Yes, because the guts is emphasized.
Wait.
Emphasize different.
You are.
Your master.
You were breaking up.
Some other verses in the New Testament that condone slavery.
Miss Fifi, you broke up like during that whole thing. What version are you saying?
The King King James Version.
Okay.
And then the New Testament, the Old Testament talks about slavery, about a person can get a slave from another ethnic group.
Mm-hmm. That's Leviticus 25.
And so that pretty much, yes. So that pretty much spells out, but if we go and conquer a country, we can just take the people and they can be our slaves.
Well, conquer.
Or you can identify a person like they did us, like dark skin or just skin, color of skin.
Mm-hmm.
They can be recognized as a person who can be a slave.
Right. And
so they enslaved a whole generation of people, and then those people, they still held on to their African heritage, but then they were incorporated along with Christianity, and then the next generation came, and they they absorbed it, and then the third generation came, then we were totally lost.
Right.
Here in a trans-American slave trade.
Yeah, those of us who came to North America, we lost all our connections to Africa for the most part. There's some of it that's incorporated into Christianity, that's kind of slick with it. Like actually the catching of the Holy Ghost actually is more of an African tradition that was held over into and was made into Christianity, because prior to that, only the priest and the pastors can have the Holy Spirit, and then they translate it down to the people. But as the North Americans started, the dancing and everything, and that comes from the practice of the ancient versions of Ifa and whatnot, of being invited by a spirit, that then was transferred into the Holy Spirit, and everybody can have it. So there are like slight elements that we hold, but we don't, but the connection to Africa is not there, It's been like overly wrapped by biblical teachings in order to make it seem like it's biblically correct. But you go down into the Caribbean, go down into the South America, there's a much more of a mixture of African traditions within the religion of Christianity, their version of Christianity. But all the versions of the Bible condone the same type of slavery that happened in the transatlantic slave trade. And I thought you were saying that there was a version that doesn't.
Who escaped the Exodus, all they did was went and did what was done to them according to the Bible, which is enslaved other people.
Yes, that is all that they did. They,
after walking around for 20 years.
Which is interesting because it makes some contradictions where they talk about remember when you were slaves in Egypt, so treat people differently. But what people don't realize that they're only talking about treating other Hebrew tribes to other Hebrew tribes, that you are not to enslave your other Hebrew brother. They are indentured servants, and they're to be let go in 7 years. But there's a caveat so that they can actually turn them into chattel slavery as well.
Oh, wow.
So one of the caveats, when it comes to a man is released after 7 years, but a woman is not. But if the man is given a wife by that master and he wants to stay with his wife and children because they have to remain slaves, then he can do a pledge to the master by having an awl driven through his earlobe, and then he becomes a slave for life. So there's a workaround for men to still become chattel slaves. Now, women and children, for the most part, even Hebrew to Hebrew, they are chattel slaves.
Oh, wow.
So it further shows.
So they enslaved.
So they enslaved. Go ahead. You were saying?
You said that they enslaved their own.
Yes, they still enslaved there was still a way to enslave your own. Yes.
And women had no rights.
Yeah, and women can just be
Okay.
sold into slavery because there's a part where it says if a father sells his daughter as a slave and then the master makes her a wife, then he has to keep her as a wife and can't divorce her even if he's displeased with her. And even if he gives into his son, they have to keep her and can't divorce her. So daughters, women, could be sold into slavery, and that would be chattel slavery for women. And if they have any children, their children are going to be chattel slaves as well, regardless if they're Hebrew or not.
Wow.
So this is like one of the reasons why I don't understand how black people can be Christian, but I dang sure don't understand how women follow the Bible, because the Bible treats y'all like trash. You know, women have no rights in this world.
I know. And if it wasn't for women, there would be no church.
And that's the funny part about it. You take women out of the church and the church is gone. It is done.
It's gone.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the major
And the
followers.
only people who really get to say anything is men.
And the only people
The only thing she usually do, this is when I was going to church, is do the announcements.
sound like that Baptist church I grew up in. You breaking up, Miss Fifi? Okay. Say that again, because you broke up the whole time.
I don't know why, because I got the speaker up. I don't know why, because I got the speaker up to my mouth.
See,
I'm still breaking up.
Now you clear right now. If you was a guy, I would say your phone is raggedy.
Wow.
But I only say that to men.
If I was a guy, what?
If you was a guy,
I'm not no guy now.
I know. Listen to what I said. If you was a guy, I would make the joke that your phone is raggedy. But since you're not, I can't make that joke.
Oh.
I treat men differently than I treat women.
Thank you.
I'm harsher on them. But
I don't know what's wrong with it.
But yeah, so what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying, we were talking about women in the church, and I was saying that there's a lot of protocol for women in the church. Like, you can't go up into the pulpit unless you're the lead usher delivering water.
Yeah.
You can't get up in even if you read the scripture, you still can't go up there in the pulpit.
You sure can't.
And you could be ordained minister and cannot go up in the pulpit.
Yep.
So women have a really rough time with Christianity, although they are the leaders of it.
Yeah, they are the backbones of it. They support it. Without women, the church would die, especially the black church. The black church would be done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yet, this book treats women worse than it treats any other group of people. And but for some reason, they can't. Well, they can't see it if they read it for themselves. But they're not. It's definitely not taught. In there, they don't teach women these things of how the Bible treats them and how little rights they have. That their word is not worth anything because it could be broken. Like it says that if a woman was to give a testimony, unless it's supported by a man, it's not valid. Or supported by multiple people, is not valid. If a woman makes a promise, her husband or brother or father can come and say within 3 days can say that, nah, she ain't doing this. That promise is invalid. So a woman's word is not even worth anything unless she can make a promise and let some time go by. And then the fact that a woman can be forced into marriage in the Bible, and even if a woman is SA'd by another man, all the other man has to do is pay the father 50 pieces of silver, and then she has to marry that dude and provide him children. So,
wow,
it is very disturbing how the Bible treats women, right? And I just don't understand how there are women in there. It just amazes me. And The only thing I can think of that keeps women in the church is because we don't live, our society doesn't allow for that. You know what I mean?
Our society don't allow for what?
Like in our society, if a young girl who is not betrothed is essayed by somebody, the essayist can't pay 50 pieces of silver and then that girl got to marry her essayist. Like our laws, our society won't allow for that, right? So,
Right.
So because of that, because we have laws that supersede what the Bible says, that's the only reason I can see why women still stay stuck in this religion. You know, because a woman can make a promise and she can testify, she can sign a contract, even though the Bible says that she can and kind of sort of she can't, like it can be broken. Because women have that freedom now, that's why I think women are still stuck in this book. But that is also why there are actually I was just doing some research earlier today, and one of the leading groups of people who are walking away from the Bible is women. Women are starting to walk away at a fast rate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're finding that they can have more spirituality, being free from what is being taught in the Bible. And even though some of the stuff that doesn't resonate now, there's still a restriction for women, and women know that. And so they're seeking African spirituality in the Black church.
Yep.
And going back to the roots and saying, hey, this doesn't fit me. This doesn't fit. Can I fit in here? Can I belong in here?
Yeah.
Because you know what? This is the thing that gets me about the Bible. The Bible is about Hebrew people. Okay.
Right.
We are Black. We are Black Americans.
Yep.
Okay. If I go to India, if I go to China, if I go to Australia, so, you know, if I go to other countries, they have their own come to Jesus moment with their different, like Buddha, Confucius, you know, Krishna, and all of the other religions or whatever in India, which has a lot, in China. Where does the Hebrew Jesus save their souls? So, you know, that's one thing. It's like, why are you arguing? This is about Hebrew people. This is not about you.
That and you are right.
Right there on the chopping block for me. Even though, you know, I just don't understand.
Yeah.
It's not even about YT people. It's about Hebrews.
This is true.
So why are we deconstructing something that doesn't even belong to us?
That is a very good question that if a person thought through it logically, they should come to the answer of this religion is not for me, it has never been for me, because it was exactly what you're saying. It was created for a small group of people on this small little piece of land in the Mediterranean, and that's it. It wasn't for the Romans. It wasn't for the Egyptians. It wasn't for anybody else in the world but those people. But because Rome adopted it, it became part of the juggernaut of their war machine. And then and that just flowed throughout the rest of history. But if you think through that logically, you would say the only reason that I was indoctrinated into Christianity is because of slavery. The only reason the slavery happened is because of colonization. The only reason those European kingdoms were built was because of the Roman Empire. And the only reason the only reason Christianity spread is because of the Roman Empire. So it was all through force. and all through government and control that this religion developed. It is not through any evangelizing. It is not through any proof of this God. And it certainly wasn't this God demonstrating himself to any of my ancestors before the 1600s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, let me rephrase, any of my black ancestors before the 1600s. I found out I got a couple white folks in there. But before any of them, there was nothing. This guy showed no, hey, over here in Nigeria, I'm gonna come over here and visit y'all and talk to y'all and give y'all this message. No, they found out about this guy through torment, through slavery. And it's the very teachings of this guy that condoned this slavery, which is one of the reasons why I could never, ever, ever go back to this religion. It would never happen because it condones this slavery. And so you agree that the transatlantic slave trade is condoned by the Bible?
It's known.
It's condoned.
It was perpetuated by the Bible.
That is, yeah, that the God of the Bible condones the type of slavery the transatlantic was.
Yes, because everything is commerce, and so they found some people and they used the Bible to justify what they were doing.
Exactly. I had a guy on here earlier who was trying to say no, and focus on the treatment, but it's like, nah, the treatment don't matter. Doesn't matter.
Listen, I'm sorry. Well, I went to Ghana. The first time I went to Ghana, I went to Cape Coast Castle, which is a slave castle in Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through the dungeons and everything, and I got pretty much layout of what was going on. And then these people they were praying. They had a church right on top of the dungeon.
Yep.
I said, what the? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And
okay, make it make sense.
Yeah, the crazy part is they started to realize that they need to go ahead and indoctrinate them even before they left. So, because at first the indoctrination would start once they got to like the Caribbean or got to America, but then they started the indoctrination while they was being held for transport in Ghana, and so they built the church, and then the missionaries were there, and the missionaries were also going out and in their colonization and forcing people over into Christianity as well. You know, and you know the thing about it, we do it to ourselves still to this day. I remember being part of a church that they wanted to. We was going to go to, I forgot what country in Africa it was, but it was going to build a well for the people. But the first town that they wanted to go to, the town said you can come and build the well, or the village said you can come and build a well, but you can't evangelize. And so the church said, no, we're not going to come and build a well. They waited till they had a village that would agree to being evangelized to before they would go build a well for anybody. And the reason why I know this because I sat in the council, so to speak, and I was the lone voice that was like, if this is about being charitable, then what does it matter if you can evangelize? You can evangelize by your action. And if a person asks a question, then you know you can talk to them. But it shouldn't matter whether or not there shouldn't be a condition, you know. And of course I got outvoted because I was the only one who said that. But yeah, so and that's just, so we're still even doing it to our own people. You know, we're doing it. We got the same type of structure. The only way I do something for you if you let me convince you. You know, and it's taking advantage of the poor people, taking advantage of people who are in need.
Right.
And so we still do it to this day. And these lying ass pastors be up there telling people that, oh, the reason why you broke is because you don't worship God and you don't tithe. It's like, no.
Right.
You broke because you don't know money management or you didn't have opportunities. That's why your ass is broke.
You know, when people are hungry, they will say, okay.
Yeah.
And, you know,
that's what I know you weren't here earlier, but that's what me and Happy was trying to get across. We had a Muslim guy on earlier. We was trying to get across to him that to double tax non-Muslims who are living in your region, and the incentive, as he liked to call it, was we'll take away one of the taxes if you convert over to Islam. That's taking a person. I'm paying twice as much as everybody else, but if I convert to Islam, I don't have to pay twice as much. That's manipulation. And it's just, and how you were saying that you manipulate people who are hungry. A hungry person is going to go ahead and say, well, you know what? I'm going to convert over to Islam because then at least I ain't got to pay this extra tax. That's manipulation. And when we do it, right, and when Christians do it to
that's
people,
manipulation.
They're manipulating them as well. Yeah. So yeah, that's
how it happens.
Yeah, we usually don't talk about Islam on here, but he came on and, you know, my limited knowledge of it, we talked about it. But it's still the same type of manipulation. When these churches manipulate people, when these religions manipulate people, you got to be able to see that. You know, he didn't want to admit it. You know, as Africa said, as Happy Africa said, he put on his suit of cognitive dissonance. But they don't want to admit it. They can't see it. They're so attached to this religion. It's hard to get people to see that.
Well, I guess it's their coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't want to lose out.
Very hard to sometimes come to a truth or something.
Yeah, don't want to go to hell.
Especially if it surrounds everything that you do in your family.
This is true, and like, so I get tested on this quite often, and I'm about to have one of my tests here soon. So my family gathers on a family vacation every Labor Day weekend. And one of the struggles that we went through is one of the matriarchs of the family was trying to force everybody to pray together when we first get there, and definitely, and before we leave, before we all separate. But, you know, I started, when I deconstructed, at first I used to stand there and be quiet, stand there and just be quiet. But about 10 years ago, I was like, nah, I'm not doing this. And so it became a fight in the family. It became an issue. And for probably the next 5-6 months, it was an issue that we couldn't resolve. So, and that's the thing that keeps some people from deconstructing, because they're like, I don't want to be seen as an outcast. Because I had a couple of little cousins who thought the same way I thought. I didn't know they did until they came and approached me about it. But they was like, I don't want to say nothing. I don't want, you know, auntie and them mad at me. So I'm just going to stand in the circle. And I was like, I ain't standing in nothing. And so me and my kids, we not doing this. Y'all do it, we out. And if you don't, and I just had to tell them, if y'all don't want us participating in this family anymore, that's perfectly fine if that's your reason. But if that's all we mean to you, is that we have to agree on this religion, then we're not family anyway. Because if your love only extends that far, you're not my family.
Right.
Because I got friends who respect and honor my disbelief in their own religion, and they my family. And so I was like, I threatened to disconnect from them. And it wasn't a threat that I would have not done. I would have disconnected from them totally and complete. And if my mama was part of that disconnection, then I would have disconnected from her as well. You know? And most people are afraid of that, and they won't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I'm still standing in the circle. You know, it's just like, okay, whatever. Because my family they are what, you know, I used to work as a nurse in a psychiatric center. And when people talk about their religion like it's true, and the Lord is always speaking to them and so forth, this is the conversation all the time, right?
Right.
And they're heavily into the church. I can't say anything without stirring up. I can say, well, you know, sometimes I do it just for fun. I do. I have done it just for fun, but like I'm gonna stir them up. But you know, they are religiously preoccupied. Now I don't know if you've been around people who are just religiously preoccupied all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what kind of family I have, and I just stand in a circle unless I want to play games.
Yeah, I understand.
Because I you know, I detach from them. They don't know that I have detached from them, but I won't call them or anything. Except when I see them, and oh boy, let's be superficial.
Yeah, I understand, and I just got to the reason why the main reason why I realized that I'm not doing this anymore is because my own kids, they were young at that time frame. They were like, I think my oldest might have been 12. Oh, so this is much longer than about 15 years ago. So she was about 12, 13 years old. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not teaching my kids to sit up here and just placate people. That I'm always telling them that you stand on what you stand on, and you don't let anybody diminish you. But here I am letting my family diminish me. So I was like, oh hell no. You know. And it just so happened one of my cousins gave this big ass speech about God and stuff before this prayer. And I was like, oh, this is some bullshit. I was like, I'm not gonna stand here and listen to this. So I grabbed my kids. And I was like, no, we're not doing this. We're not. And I told my kid, I apologized to them for the years that I made them stand there and placate those people. But I was like, we're not doing this no more. And you don't have to do this. You know, if anybody is trying to force their religion on you, you can hang up on them. I don't care who they are. They could be your other aunties, because their other side of the family is super, super religious. Like, except for their mom, but their other relatives over there is like crazy religion. And I have a daughter who now goes do the he/him stuff. And they called me, and I was like, if your other auntie called you and is trying to condemn you, hang up the damn phone on there. And you can tell them I told you that you have permission to do so. And this is when they was like 18, 19 years old. I was like, you have permission to do so. You can hang up on them, because my authority outweighs theirs when it comes to you. You know, so, you know, I refuse to let my kids go down that rabbit hole. So that's why I can't stand. I don't stand anymore. There's no more standing in a circle. There's no more allowing someone to define me. Right. So it's just like somebody on TikTok right now. Oh, that's Cambridge. Talking about my evil eye.
So what do
you broke up.
Israel, the guys that say that they are something Israel, they wear purple.
Oh, the Power Rangers, the Hebrew Israelites.
Anyway.
Yeah. What about the Hebrew Israelites?
Yes. So, you know, when I came, I passed by them, they gave me a pamphlet, and they were saying that we are the real Hebrews, and we were enslaved, and they have some purposes and all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So the young people are still holding on to it, but I don't see how you can relate to it, because it's not about you in any kind of way.
Well, they lied to them. Who
lied to?
The whole Hebrew Israelite movement was a lie that was concocted to try to, and recreation of history, saying that the diaspora that left after 70 AD, that diaspora went into Africa and became the West Africans. They also lie and say that, and it depends on what sect of Hebrew Israelites you're talking to as well. Some of them will talk about that when the Assyrians conquered northern Israel and the 10 tribes that was lost to the Assyrians, that they eventually made their way into Africa. And then there's other sects of them that say that, well, the original slave, they were Moorish, and they came into the Iberian Peninsula as the Spanish and Portuguese, but then they were kicked out of Spain and sent into slavery once Spain took back over in like 1490, somewhere around there, 1491, 92, and that they became the slaves that was sent over to the Americas, and we are all those slaves. So they reform history to try to make it fit that the Israelites were the ones that was part of the transatlantic slave trade, and that's who we all are. That's who we all are.
Now that is stretch of belief.
Yeah.
I mean, to bring all those parts together like that without any proof.
Exactly. And people like to do stuff like that. Like this guy Cambridge saying that I'm looking to the right, so he's making things up. So when it comes to reading someone's body language, when a person is trying to read something, we're trying to remember something, then they have a tendency to look up and to the left. When they're making something up, they have a tendency to look up and to the right. What he fails to realize with his so-called claims is that this is mirrored. So I'm looking up to my left. You see how people like to make shit up, even when they just making stuff up, they're trying to make stuff up, you know. But you know, that's what the Hebrew Israelite whole thing is finding young black men who feel like the earth, like society hasn't done them well, that they're oppressed, and their message is that once the 400 years is over, which is supposed to have been, I believe, 2019, but once the 400 years is over, that they then will gain dominance, you know. And some of the ones, like I saw some ones up in the north, they like we're gonna be able to essay the white women and kill white people on the streets and all this kind of stuff. Like I've seen some wild ones that have some, you know, crazy ideas like that. But they're supposed to believe that they're going to be able to, that they're going to be redeemed by a coming, some say a coming Messiah, while others do believe they have believe in Jesus. So they're just as fractured as any other version of Christianity. But so they count the 200 plus years of transatlantic slave trade, into Jim Crow all the way up to 2019 as part of the 400 years that Deuteronomy 28 says that your children will be disobedient. They will sail away onto slave ships to Egypt, and they will not be redeemed. They will find no buyers, which that takes away from the whole concept, because when they came on the transatlantic slave trade, there were plenty of buyers. So they try to take the redeemed part to mean that there will be no Christ-like figure that redeems them, and they try to say that Mizrahim, it has the definite article, which means the country of Egypt, but they try to say that no, they're talking about it's a metaphor, and America is Egypt in the metaphor of it all. So it's just them trying to recreate. They want to hold on to this story, like it's the most. It's one of the most popular stories.
It's too bad that they are making the mistake that so many generations have made, and that is as far as creation or ways to live on this planet without the destruction we have caused by religions in the West. You know, why aren't we teaching our children science and math and things about who I think God is, which is creation? Well, that's my description of God. It's just creation. It's just like the lady said in Sunday school. He's everywhere. So that's what I believe. But I believe also that by understanding the world better, that would be better for us to learn what the world is and how we can keep it without digging up everything and just maintaining the planet as it is.
And that was, now, although I would disagree on I need proof of a God, not just existence in itself doesn't prove a God to me. But, if people believe, if you accept that, that's fine. But I do agree with you that we need to teach our children how to thrive in this society, how to be better, how to control our own destinies in this society. And then how to go and join with those of like mind and create your own society, even if it has to be created within a larger society. Like imagine if the diaspora, I know I talked about this yesterday with another gentleman, but imagine if we all from just America alone, if all 40 million or 76% of 40 million of the Black people in America picked up and went to Kenya, it would change world politics, world economics, and world dynamics. Within 10 years, the whole world would be different. With that, as something like that happened. But even if we did it on smaller scales, we can change the dynamics of the world if we just learn how to build. If we build and unify together and did more than just, the basics, just trying to survive.
Yes.
But it has been almost 4 hours.
I know.
It is lunch. I have not eaten lunch. I'm sitting up here starving.
I really enjoy this talk with you. It makes me think clear of, how I feel and what I think. And I'm glad that you presented this.
Yeah.
Because, this is the book we have here in the West. And this is the book that brought us over.
This is why we are, and hopefully we can get away from it and stop believing in this book. But it takes a whole plethora of people, as we do have right now, of breaking this stuff down, deconstructing this. And this is why there is a huge growth of people walking away from this religion. So it is getting the next 20 years is going to be very interesting as the number of people who deconstruct and walk away from religion continues to grow to a number that it can't be diminished as many people are trying to diminish it. So I look forward to it. There are going to be a lot of babies born right now who are not going to be indoctrinated into this religion. So, but I go live now every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So every day during the week, the work week, I'm live from 12 noon till like around now, Eastern Standard Time frame. So it'd be my pleasure for everybody to continue to join and have conversations. I have no idea what we're talking about tomorrow yet, but I look forward to it. But I want to thank Miss Fifi, Africa, Happy Africa coming on, Remy when he was on. I even somewhat think Primer, but thank Primer. But thank everybody for coming on, making the show more entertaining, more enjoyable, and more informative. Right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. So y'all have a great one. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Deuces, people. Deuces. I'm hungry.